live, so we broadcasting on these motherfuckers. God damn it. Give us the money, god damn it! You gonna pass with your old bitch?
As we prepare to move forward with this black agenda on the throne of white supremacy. As we continue the war to white supremacy, very forgotten, never to be sure to begin ever again. Let's make sure we remember the Negroes who were collaborating with white supremacy. Joy Reid may think to herself that she did something slick. No, this don't move the needle.
Nope.
And it doesn't scare anyone.
Right.
My reaction to this was not anger at all. I know these idiots have been well aware of what we've been doing. We played for a long time. That's the thing. You're listening to us. Because a lot of you out there, I guess you think it's okay to be listening to anyone.
Damn, that nigga knows!
Anyone who claims to be pro-black, anyone who says some black power or whatever. And you need to be more judicious with who you listen to. You know who the primary voices of black people are, and you know that you can't go wrong by listening to us.
Man, stay ahead of the curve, baby.
So family, take a bow.
Man.
What Joy Reid did this weekend, this is an admission that black media has drawn blood.
And put that ass on notice.
It's an admission that they're scared. They can feel the walls closing in.
Show ass on the ground. Like you thought you was doing.
They understand who the momentum's with.
Hey, who's this little old lady in the hoop skirt? That little badass lady in the hoop skirt. Where the badass lady in the hoop skirt? Keep kicking ass. Looking kind of mean and ruthless with that goddamn. Yeah, mean ass lady in the hoop skirt.
Well, hell, you might as well remove everybody, white, black, or otherwise, from being able to vote. Everybody's up.
Watch out!
Under those circumstances. Yeah, except they always like to use
go.
as if they just apply to no particular reason. That's what's happening here. It's okay for other people to say tantrums, but it's just not okay to say tantrums. See, it's okay for white people to be able to get government contracts and to be able to live off the tax. I say the same thing, but that ain't all right. See, it's okay for white teenagers to either get a record deal or to be able to get some sort of multi-million-dollar contract. We let some black kids in the city get a contract like LeBron James did when he was 8 years old, not even out of high school yet. And all of a sudden, there's young people shouldn't have that kind of money. Yeah, that's how you know we're on the right track.
Don't you
think
about it.
I know that you listen to voices like mine. In fact, I have no doubt that you will be listening to this video essay. While you cower in your stupid fear on your desk, hoping that your white paymasters are not seeing that you never had any influence or stroke with the black community, as you hope for yourself that you make it past this election cycle. Just remember, when the day comes, and it's coming sooner than you think, that you get your pink slip,
That's what you owe, motherfucker.
and that you have, after enduring months of the
Take
black
that bird down, bitch. You owe us.
Sundays, when you actually have to see that white people force you out, you got to keep them tossing your bone herd, which you know is coming, but you're just hoping if I can hang in there a little bit longer. Get another book deal. When you get cut off and you realize, like Kamala Harris before you, that there was nothing you could do to stop it, I know that you'll be grinding your teeth like roly-poly. Maybe you'll do like him and you'll put up a failed YouTube channel. And just like him, you'll be sitting there wondering why it is that you got 300,000 subscribers and only like 200 people on average who watch your video.
They gonna pay what they owe, nigga.
As you see your would-be career circling the toilet bowl on its way to oblivion, you just remember the same foundational black Americans, the same descendants of American slaves that you have thought yourself were going to set up to be run off the internet, you're going to set us up to be gotten rid of. We're the ones who are going to resign you to the ash heap of history. You're going to be going back to some anonymous blog that nobody gave a damn about. You'll be joining roly-poly in that broom closet. And the same way that you've been telling lies about us and telling lies about the black agenda, the same way you've been lying about the black media, you'll be lying to yourself that it must have been the Russians, but the truth is you've admitted you know who it is. Trying to save face will not save what's left of your career. We are the ones who are going to write your page in history, and it won't even be a page, it's just going to be a footnote. There was this Guyanese immigrant named Joy Reid who figured that she was better than the sons and daughters of American slavery. She would tell lies all the time for her white paymasters. She sold all manner of falsehoods and disinformation meant to deceive black people and to lie about us and who we are, what we've done, and what we're owed. She thought she was part of the in crowd because she got a pat on the head and white society gave her a check. But in the end, her future was not in her own hands. It wasn't even in the hands of her white paymasters. Her future was in the hands of the very former slaves who she had shown disrespect to. And interest.
You should be mad at leaf blowers. You should be mad your neighbor always wants to hang out.
They say that when speaking of the dead, you should only say good. Roger Ailes is dead. Good. The official line being given is that he had a serious fall at his home a week ago, which resulted in a blood clot in his leg that put him into a coma and led to his death earlier today. And for any of the pale male Fox News faithful who may come across this video essay, let me tell you some hard truths. If there's a hell, Antonin Scalia's already in it. And if there's a hell, Roger Ailes is going to it. But you know what I think? I think that this morbidly obese racist punk died of a broken heart. Well, assuming that he ever had one. Now, I've always told you that the white supremacist media, the propaganda arm of white supremacy, is always ideologically aligned, no matter what petty differences that they may claim that they have, so they can fool you into thinking that they have some convictions. The truth of the matter is, where the white people in the media are concerned, their only real conviction is supporting white supremacy.
And we've had a lot of people today from both sides of the so-called media spectrum who have been lauding Roger Ailes as being some sort of genius, heaping praise on him. And there's a lot of scumbags over on the right, of course, who are missing Roger Ailes, and why not? They owe him everything. Megyn Kelly would be giving blowjobs at a law firm full-time somewhere if Roger Ailes hadn't put her on his casting couch. Gretchen Carlson would be selling cars at her parents' car lot were it not for Ailes. And by now, I would imagine that Bill O'Racist would have gone back to covering wet T-shirt contests in Florida full-time had it not been for Roger Ailes giving him the golden nod. Steve Doocy would certainly still be flubbing his teleprompter lines in Dallas if Ailes hadn't pulled him out of obscurity and put him on a national stage. Yep, there's a lot of losers who got a platform and a lot of talentless also-rans who got a second career because of Roger Ailes. Racist Emporium is how Fox News will be remembered. 20 years of screeching, blaring, obnoxious fraud. Fox News was and is a satanic sideshow, a traveling circus of the damned, and Roger Ailes was its ringleader. What I'm going to do after I go ahead and give a proper eulogy for this bastard is I'm going to give you a second viewing of the classic video that I made about Roger Ailes called Why Roger Ailes Isn't Going Away. Because fully half of my subscribers were not subscribed to me at the time the video was originally made, and even if you've seen it, I want you to watch it again, because it is my expert summary of Roger Ailes.
These two niggas thought they were slick.
Show back in the 1960s.
These two motherfuckers thought they were slick.
Richard Nixon's campaign as a media advisor to his two failed attempts to start a right-wing network back in the 1970s to his finally succeeding in the 1990s. You need to understand the evil genius that Roger Ailes represented and the fact that he's not going away. He is going to have a large presence even from beyond the grave due to the ideological bastards that he gave rise to. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and give Roger Ailes the send-off to hell that he truly deserves. I think that the first word ought to belong to Roger Ailes himself, just to give you an idea of what a twisted, demented psycho this bastard was.
We live in a country where we believe individuals are innocent until proven guilty. I believe we owe that same courtesy to our country. This country is only 230 years old. It's small, it's young. Who better to protect it than the people who enjoy the freedoms it provides, and that's us. Of course, things can be criticized. Things could be better. Things could be improved. But in the end, the United States of America has fed more and freed more people on Earth than all of the other countries put together.
That's a load of bullshit.
Did you get that?
Wow.
Gotta give old Ailes credit. That soundbite is only 30 seconds long, but Roger Ailes managed to cram about a year's worth of lies into it. For starters, the crap about trying to portray the United States as some sort of geopolitical historical underdog. Small and young? Are you crazy? Let's start with that small lie. There's over 200 countries on the Earth, but geographically, the United States is the third largest country on Earth.
Don't mistake.
Canada and Russia occupy more land space, so the crap about the U.S. being small
Good shit,
is a
good
lie.
shit, good
Also,
shit.
The United States has the third largest population on Earth.
Good shit.
Yes, a lot of people talk about how the U.S. only has 5% or so of the world's population, but nobody's country has such 40 citizens as China and India. So both in terms of land and in terms of population, the U.S. ranks in the top 3. Perhaps when Ailes says the United States is small,
crazy bitch over here with a goddamn hoop skirt. Watch out, nigga!
Russia. White people are never satisfied. They always want more. And to see anyone else with more of anything than themselves makes them feel insecure and envious. And the U.S. needs protection.
Fuck out of here.
Joke. The U.S. military is stronger than any other military on Earth, and the amount of
fuck out of here.
US on war is more than the next 12 countries combined.
Fine.
Roger Ailes isn't stretching the truth with that one.
That
He's just
motherfucker.
loud lying.
You goddamn right.
His audience isn't there for facts. They're there for psychological
Orange
messages.
crew. Give me my orange
Thing
J.
Moral people crave the most is for someone
You gonna give us some OJ,
to
bitch?
tell them that their immorality is somehow justified on some basis, no matter how ludicrous. More than that, tell them their immorality is virtuous and right. They know it's crap, but they'll also eat it up too. But the best of all is when he said, who better to protect the global marauder than the white sociopaths who have enjoyed its freedoms? Well, whatever he said. Finally, though, some truth. Yes, Roger and his pampered white pals do enjoy the fat of the land. And they've done it by race-baiting, lying, and promoting global slaughter and theft. And that part about the United States feeding and freeing more people than anyone else, yeah, that's exactly the kind of bumper sticker sloganizing that I would expect from a worm like Roger Ailes. And it's exactly the crap that appeals to his white bread audience. First of all, the United States has taken more lives than it can ever claim to have freed. And secondly, if you look at the countries that clowns like Ailes would try to tell you the United States...
Oh yeah, great. Another person you gotta check out is Dick Gregory and Dr. Claude Anderson. Dick Gregory, when it comes to like learning about like analyzing shit, and Dr. Claude Anderson, he'll give you a Black History reader that literally gives you from the start of slavery, well, pretty much before that, like when it comes to the start of slavery in Africa, till now, and he gives you the laws. So motherfuckers can't complain and be like, well, you don't know what laws actually, hurt black people. It's like, no, yeah, I do. Black codes, Jim Crow, segregation, they're like, goddamn. Yes, the whole breakdown.
Has been feeding, then you'll see that these countries had good leaders who were toppled by the United States, or they have suffered under bad leaders supported by the United States, and that the United States has tampered with and otherwise destabilized these countries to get their resources or to make sure they never emerged as competitors to the U.S. on the global stage. The third world is not the third world because they are somehow inexorably trapped in being in a lower status. They are the third world because the first world made them so.
Looking the other way.
Undermining the internal politics of countries who truly are weak and need protection. From the United States. Bastard had the nerve to call her innocent.
Just bump their heads, just flying that around.
Right there. There are a lot of words that can describe the United States of America, but innocent will never be one of them. Only a racist psychopath to say something so blatantly false. Monsters always minimize their actions, not only to avoid taking blame, but to also make it easier for them to commit their next atrocity. Monsters take genocide and mass rape and torture and try to claim these were imperfections.
Get 'em, Orange.
Youthful indiscretion.
Oh, that motherfucker away, Greg.
Everyone slaughtered
Get 'em,
nations
Greg.
full of people and enslaved several nations.
Smother him with the hoop skirt.
Call it ridicule. This country was forged from oceans of blood.
Smother him with the hoop skirt.
This country has been a rapacious beast from before its founding. This country has slaughtered tens of billions, enslaved hundreds of billions, stole all the land and resources it could in its own domain, and then went out to the world and has been on a genocidal march across the globe ever since. The United States fought to keep the Haitians enslaved. It supported slavery in the U.S. until it was no longer politically
That was like down to the deadline.
The United States propped up dictators in every corner of the globe.
Yeah, they
supplied
did.
chemical and biological weapons to regimes, backed apartheid states, toppled elected democracies, and claimed that it all had to be done for the sake of spreading democracy. Now tell me what part of all that is innocent? The country's laws were founded on racism. Slavery written into the nation's charter. The country's founders were slave owners themselves and mass murderers. They slaughtered everyone they could and enslaved the survivors. These are not youthful indiscretions. That's how Roger Ailes characterized them. You know, a wise man once said that the greatest single cause of atheism in the world today are Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips and then walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle.
Man.
That is what an unbelieving world finds simply unbelievable. Well, in geopolitical terms, the same is true of the United States. The greatest single cause of communism and autocracy in the world is the United States, who proclaim democracy and then either destroys democratic countries or supports undemocratic ones and claims that they do it because they love democracy. The rest of the world sees this and in response supports political strongmen who they hope will protect them from the U.S., or they decide that if the U.S. constitutes democracy, then they want no part of it. So they support anyone who claims to bring an alternative. And for Roger Ailes to talk about people being innocent until proven guilty is the biggest perverted lie of all. Because that's certainly not what Roger Ailes and his ilk have said about Bill Cosby or the numerous murder victims of white police. They spent 8 years saying that Barack Obama hated America because of a pastor's words and those of a 70s political activist. Fox pushed the lie that Obama hated America, and their only proof, they didn't like his ideas. Roger Ailes perfected the art of stating your own biases as fact and then leaving your opponent to disprove a negative. Roger Ailes figured out long ago the power of media, and he honed that skill and sharpened it and then used it as a knife to slit the throats of innocent people. He understood that the most important thing was to have a media platform large enough that it would reach a mass audience, because that's the key to effective propaganda. Market penetration. There's a good reason why you never heard of Roger Ailes until Fox News. It was because he always lacked the one thing he craved the most. A means by which to talk to all the hundreds of millions of entitled, spoiled white people who never had to grow up and were desperate for a TV show that would tell them their anti-black hatred was somehow valid, and that their racialist crackpot delusions had some sort of merit. White people never wanted to look at themselves, own up to what they've done, and thanks to Roger Ailes, they would never have to. They now had a media bubble to take refuge inside, and Ailes furnished that bubble with white self-aggrandizing hallucinations and anti-black hysteria. None of it was real, but then again, that was the whole point. White people wanted an escape from reality, and Roger Ailes provided it. He traumatized their pathetic delusions of persecution and gave them talking heads who repeated the gibberish that they heard on talk radio. Oppression is always something less appreciated by those who never had to suffer it. But as I told you, Roger Ailes may be dead, but the lies he told and the media ideology he gave rise to is alive and well, and will be for some time to come. We're going to be dealing with Ailes' acolytes and his ideological bastards for a very long time. Now, a lesson for black people to take away from all this is that the media is powerful. It can lead people astray, or it can put them on the right track. We need to get some real media estate of our own, and not a little bit, but a lot of it. Roger Ailes simply could not get the rank-and-file right-winger to care about media in the 1970s. But after the humiliating impeachment of Richard Nixon, after the Carter years, and most of all after the Reagan years, a lot of the good white folks started to get their swagger back. Worse than that, they developed a taste for being psychologically masturbated.
Just push it!
Warned in on the
push it real good!
And this was feasible because radio was cheap. It didn't require cameras or makeup artists or editors. All you needed was one technician and someone to get behind a microphone and talk. But the most important thing of all, the prerequisite that people like Roger Ailes most needed to jumpstart a right-wing media was the fact that radio was ubiquitous. Radio was already everywhere. In people's homes, their cars, their desks at work, their Walkman. It was the proof of what Roger Ailes knew a resurgent right-wing media offensive would need. And building on the success of right-wing radio, Ailes plotted how to duplicate that success on television.
God damn it.
His unique brand
That's from beyond the grave,
lies
bitch.
and bigotry was the type of Aryan white supremacist imagery that he knew white people wanted, combined with the unabashed sex appeal sure to please the chauvinist pigs who make up Fox News' very base audience. White people have found themselves being seriously challenged on again, off again for 150 years. More importantly than that, they see their once assured, guaranteed grip on power in the world beginning to slacken ever so much. As a result, they've become pressured, threatened, and afraid. What they want most is to be reassured. Reassured that the world will still remain the oyster of the people. Reassured that the world is never going to change. But most of all, reassured that they are white and right. Fox News is exactly what white people want from the media.
Come on, yo.
They
Push
don't
back,
want
push back.
information, they want affirmation. Don't tell them something they don't know. Instead, validate what they already believe. So with that, it's time to go ahead and give you a reviewing
The orange is coming from
of the classic
around,
video that I
around
did,
town.
Why Roger Ailes Isn't Going Away. Please take note of how this media demagogue came to power, how he built his...
Oh yeah, great. Another one, too. Professor Black Truth
imposing some consequences
on
for
YouTube.
people who
Professor
are not
Black
directly
Truth.
responsible
Check that one out.
for what happened in the past, but were the indirect.
Yeah, Professor Black Truth on YouTube. Subscribe to that nigga. Definitely. And make sure you subscribe to Dr. Claude Anderson, because that motherfucker tell the real shit. Professor Black Truth breaks it down. And Jason Black. Yo, Greg, that's just funny as hell. Like, motherfuckers really on mainstream media want to say, well, any black person online that says they want reparations for slavery are Russian bots. When the fuck did Putin want to be with niggas? Like, ain't nobody ever told Putin. Ain't never said, "Yo, I'm down with the hip hop community. I'm down with the Black Panthers." That nigga ain't never said that shit. That nigga's a KGB spy. Now he's the president of fucking Russia. But I digress.
Fisheries of what happened in the past, and that vastly complicates the resolution of such issues.
There was a good reason that I started off with that quote from Zbigniew Brzezinski. Not merely because he was a white man, but because he was also an immigrant, as noted on the image. This whole subject about what it is that black people are owed, it's coming to a boil mainly because there's a refinement going on here, and that's how power works. Power is continually in the process of refining itself, purifying itself. You take some gold out of the ground, and what happens is you gotta smelt it, you gotta throw it in the furnace, because you gotta separate the gold from the dross. And that's what's going on right now. This is not to say that we are trying to separate ourselves from the rest of the African diaspora. Far from it. We've been repping black while everybody else has been running from it. All the rest of these folks from the Africa from outside the United States have been trying to call themselves everything else except black. They were trying to separate themselves from us. We never tried to separate ourselves from them. So let's make this absolutely crystal clear. We are not trying to separate ourselves from the rest of the African diaspora. We are attempting to clarify our place in the African diaspora. What we are doing right now is no different than what you saw Jews doing. They didn't say that we're not white people. What they were saying was, well, we need to clarify the position that Jews hold among the Europeans. among the Caucasian, we want to make it clear where we stand, what we are, and what it is that we're about. And that's what we're doing as well, so that we don't have any confusion. So that people who call themselves, whether it's in the United States, some of these foreign-born black people or foreign-descended black people, or those who we meet in their home countries, we don't want them getting us wrong. And when they come over here, we definitely don't want them getting us wrong. Everybody needs to be clear. We're hitting the reset button so that we can have clarity. You're going to be hearing a whole lot of us throwing the words of all of these other non-black groups and non-foreign, non-domestic foreign black people in their faces as far as what black people are owed. Expect to be hearing and seeing a lot of that. All of these people have been running around making all kinds of justifications for why the Jews should get reparations for a crime that happened in Europe. Or, in the case of the Vigny Brzezinski,
you ain't about to just run up on my motherfucking homeboy like that, blow his fucking brains out like I ain't see that shit.
On the Ukraine.
Motherfucker.
He was talking about the Ukraine and what can be done to try to settle some of those old ethnic antagonists. Now, this is what a white man would say about other white people, what they can do amongst themselves. You see, everybody's entitled to reparations except for black people.
Good shit.
Because white supremacy is turning the world on its head. White supremacy has misshapen and perverted and twisted the entire global order into nothing more than a nation's pyramid scheme of black people as bottom. And what started off at first was for the European to steal everything that wasn't bolted down or on fire. And starting about 130 years ago, the European decided
to get that ass
the white supremacist project, which was to freeze the world the way that it is, to ensure that the European never loses the position with which he emerged from imperialism. And this has had many, it's had a number of different iterations throughout the last 120 to 130 years. Starting off with the conference, then going into the ill-fated League of Nations, then coming out of the Second World War, you had Bretton Woods, the European Union, and the Project for a New American Century and such. These are all just different names for the exact same agenda, which is to make sure that white people don't lose their position. Because all that stuff these folks do, they were not concerned about the rest of the world. They were only concerned about white folks and how to make sure that white people stayed on code. And part of being on code means you ain't sitting here shooting each other. Having knockdown dragouts about which one of y'all is going to be ruling over everyone else. That's go. So the European, because of the fact that he's never been able to get along with anyone, not even himself, of course it was going to boil over. Of course these guys were going to boil over. Before they were able to break through the military and get into Africa in the late 15th century.
Had motherfuckers on lockdown. They didn't know what was going on. Motherfucker.
Now, for those of us whose ancestors were caught up in the slavery experience, what does this have to do with us? We were wrong. We are the most wronged and righteously aggrieved people on the planet. And there are a lot of people who have been eating off of our deprivation, eating off of our poverty, who've been having a damn good time filling their bellies at our expense. And what they figured was that the day would never come that a critical mass of black people would put their heads together, put their differences aside, and decide that they were going to pursue the black first agenda. We need to be very clear. When we say black first, resources, or where we have
smoking with the hoop skirt, Greg. Greg, change your goddamn character.
You go to Jamaica, you ain't gonna be.
You keep jumping your ass with the hoop skirt.
Thing black empowerment happening down there. Haiti,
you gotta say more.
You can sit there and say that Brazil has more black people than any place outside of Africa. But you go down to Brazil,
you don't see it.
As well. And there's a lot of black folks in South America. There's a lot of black people who got caught in the slavery experience. Very few of them reacted the way that we did. Black empowerment is not something that's going to come naturally to the rest of the diaspora. We are going to have to impose it. As I keep pointing out, this is not new. Shaka Zulu had to do the exact same thing. Time ran out for him. Let us pray that it does not run out for us. The European's been watching us. He's seeing that the threat that he failed to deal with 160 years ago, now this threat has grown and is beginning to coalesce and is beginning to magnify itself. He's got a big problem on his hands. We are a political problem. And he decided that he was going to pursue a strategy of drowning us out of existence. At first, bring in a whole bunch of his kith and kin from Europe. Didn't have enough of them to bring in, so he started bringing in folks from Southern Europe, people who were not considered to be white at all. But go ahead and give them the political designation white so that they'll be on the team. They won't be accepted, but the point is they'll toe the line, and that's really all that matters. And Hispanics were among that group. And then, when that wasn't enough, we'll bring in a bunch of foreign-born Asians. We're just going to drown these slave descendants in a whole bunch of foreigners. And the whole point is going to be this is a mass political operation geared toward trying to give us political cover to say, well, what you slavery descendants, what you guys have to say, that doesn't really mean much because we've got all these other groups here and they don't have the same rights as you guys. So, nobody's concerns are really more important than anyone else's. Your concerns are certainly no better and certainly no more important than anyone else's. And this is the so these other groups, there's still a tiny minority of the population.
You're looking on the back, man. You didn't see you coming.
So, trying to drown
Don't get it.
the political operation was a threat that we put. We built a lie to all of them.
Go get it.
Prior civilizations were not about slave population. When the slave population's usefulness had been extended, they were
kill 'em.
This happened without fail in every civilization in the world. Well, at least in Europe and Asia, Africa, you might have a couple groups in others, but no wholesale because slavery wasn't really the same in Africa. To the extent that it existed, the Africans did not use any sort of indentured servitude the way that the Europeans and the Asians did.
Man.
So let's not get it twisted. But in every other instance where you have a slave and
Run, we got you. Go ahead. Go to the house. Take it 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 to the house.
It was not meant to enrich them. It was meant to enrich the oppressor's civilization. So you got to kill them when it's all over, and that solves the problem. Hell, even Richard Spencer talked about that. So get rid of them when it's over. That didn't happen here. We put up too big a fight.
At least I grabbed the bag.
Before it was all over, well, now the slaves are still here. Well, damn. And there's too many people watching now. And these slaves have come to do quite a bit to influence what people think of as this country. Man, we can't kill them without basically contradicting everything we claim to stand for. White supremacy is an idea, and the lies that white supremacy uses to try to justify itself and try to pretend like it's not the evil that it clearly is, that's also an idea. So they're stuck on the horns of a dilemma. This is what Thomas Jefferson meant when he said, we have a tiger by the ears and we can neither safely hold him nor let him go. We're not going to stop what we're doing, but at the same time, we don't know how the hell to keep this up. So where in the world do all these foreigners come into play? They have been the indirect, and in many cases, direct beneficiaries of our enslavement.
That's how I know how much I get on people's nerves, man.
Gone to enrich everyone except for ourselves. We are owed, and the bill
like,
is
damn.
due. Time to pay up.
What's all this black power shit, man?
And yes, it is going to be to the
What's all this black power shit?
of dollars.
It's called black empowerment,
Because
dumbass.
those individuals who have become rich off of us, look at how much richer they become over the last 350 to 400 years. They didn't make chump change. They became the most powerful and most opulent and wealthiest nation in human history. That means the reparations that go to their victims will be the biggest in human history. And all of these immigrants, I don't give a damn where they come from. If they come from Mexico or whether they come from Mali. If they come from Washington or if they come from the far side of Guangzhou. I don't give a damn where the hell they come from. Once they come over here in the United States, they have volunteered to pay that debt. And not a damn one of those immigrants can claim that they didn't know what they were getting into. Every one of them knew what they were getting into. But what they also knew was that black people were paving the way to try to make this country, at least on occasion, act like something resembling civilization. When you think about the United States of America, especially when it means people who are not white males, it comes down to the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 65.
Plain and simple.
Those were not the results of Asians. There weren't enough of them here, and the few of them who might have been here at the end of the 19th century, they weren't fighting for anything. It wasn't the result of Hispanics either.
Nope.
From the Mexican-American War all the way to the present, these guys have not been doing anything except for dreaming of the old days and pretending that they were Spaniards. It ain't the result of Arabs or Indians or Native Americans or these foreign-born blacks. It was the result of those of us who were here, those of us whose ancestors were dying and suffering in the hells of North America. We made the United States. Whatever good it is you think of the U.S., we are responsible for that. We and we alone. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were not the result of white folks having a come to Jesus moment. They didn't do it out of the goodness of their own hearts. If they did, what the hell were they up to for the previous 300 years then? No, they did it because we faced them with a political dilemma and they had no other way out. We put their backs to the wall, and it was a matter of, you've already had one civil war. If you don't come down on the right side of history this time, you're in for a second one. They said, okay, fine, but it was political necessity. A necessity that we brought about. No one else. Not a brag, just a historical fact. We're equating people with history now. And we're letting people know that we are a unique people. We are a special people, a people apart. We are an exceptional group. And what was done to us has never been done to anyone in the history of the world. Hence, what we are due is beyond anything that any other group of people are due. And as for these immigrants who have come in, you guys owe us too. In fact, you owe us more than everyone else, because at least with the good white folks who were here beforehand, these guys, they were being a bunch of honest thieves. These immigrants who came in, they were being nothing more than a bunch of base opportunists. They came in, they saw how we were being treated, and they threw in their lot with the oppressors, and then they want to have it both ways. At least the white supremacist, the indigenous white supremacist, native white supremacist here, at least he knows what he's doing is wrong. These other groups saw it, said that it was wrong, and then said, you know what, we're going to help you out anyway. We're going to help out the white supremacists anyway. I just love it when you got some good white folks today, or better yet, you got some of these immigrants who want to try to pretend as if, oh, well, I shouldn't owe anything. Let me tell you something. This is a message. In fact, this is the entire reason for tonight's video essay. I got something to say to all of you foreign-born folks, or you descendants of foreigners, like Joy Reid and Angela Rye and Roly-Poly Martin and Kamala Harris, and every one of you who happen to either be immigrants or the children of immigrants. You are not going to get away with that con game of, well, I wasn't any part of this. I just showed up yesterday. Yeah, why the hell are you here? You're here because this is a land of opportunity. There are vast economic resources. Yes, economic resources that were only made possible because of my people. You don't get to take credit for that. You weren't part of that. The only reason why this empire of liberty, this bastion of capitalism, free market nonsense, whatever you want to call it, even exists, is because we made it possible. It could not have stored up and stockpiled the wealth that it had if it hadn't been for us. That was our doing, not yours. So when you come over here calling yourself trying to get a piece of the action, you're trying to get a piece of our action. And the thing about it is, you want a piece of the action, you got to pay full freight for it. Oh, you weren't responsible for slavery. You weren't responsible for Jim Crow. You weren't responsible for the black codes. Yeah, but you damn well been eating off of it now, haven't you? For these foreigners to call themselves running up in here and then claiming no responsibility, that they owe no debt to black people, you're a damn lie. You owe as big a debt as the most dyed-in-the-wool white supremacist. It's no different than if you try to buy a house. You call yourself wanting a house. You look and say, I like the 2-car garage. I like the 3.5 baths. I like the nice basement that doesn't smell too much like mold. I like the new carpeting and all the rest of it. And oh, it's got such nice acoustics. And the place, it is so well insulated. Well, if you want all of that, if you like what that house has to offer because it's better than the other houses on the block, well, there's going to have to be some responsibility for any outstanding liens on that home. If that home has any debts against it, you also are responsible for that too. So if you call yourself liking all the nice amenities that the house has, you like the fact that it's got 2 stories, you like the circular driveway, you like the fact that it's a smart home, and it's got an internal intercom system, you like all that great stuff, then you got to go along with the debts that go with the house too, if there are any. And guess what? When it comes to those of us who are the descendants of slaves, you're looking at the lien holders. The United States has the biggest liens on its house of any on the block. So as soon as you decide that you want to move into this house, well, you got to take care of those liens too. I, as a black man, cannot think that I can go to Germany and that I can opt out of whatever historical debts that Germany owes to the Jews or anyone else, and it owes dues to black people. And yet the Germans ain't talking about reparations to black people. Gee, I wonder why. But as a black man, I cannot think that I can go to Germany or France and that I am not going to have my taxes go to pay Germany and France's historical debts to the Jews. I can't say, well, I wasn't part of that. I just got here. I'm just here to work and do my... Why should I be paying anything? They'll tell you quick, well, these are the historical debts that this country owes because of things that it did, or in the case of France, things that it failed to do. And the same thing goes for the United States. You don't get out of the U.S.'s debts. The second that you come over here, you're volunteering to be part of those debts. The same way you called yourself volunteering yourself to get some of these goodies too. So any of you immigrants and any of you foreigners in the sound of my voice, just understand, you have now volunteered to be part of that group that has to pay for America's debts to black people, specifically those of us who are descended from slaves. You have now volunteered to be part of that group that has to pay up. Now, if you decide that you don't want to do that, then it's very simple. The same way that you look at a house and find out that it's got outstanding liens, you go, well, heck, I'm not going to pay somebody else's debts, then you go find another house. You better stay away from this one because this house has all sorts of pre-existing obligations and debts that go along with it. And if you decide that you want this house, then you got to pay the debts and you don't get out of it. You don't get to hide behind, well, I didn't rack it up. You're right, you didn't rack it up. You volunteered to pay it. Simple as that. It's time that we start making these people act like adults and not children, acting like Billy. But Billy, it wasn't me. Nobody wants to hear that crap. Everything that the United States has done wrong, the greatest crime in human history, and here you are acting as accomplices after the fact. You're damn right you owe us. Nobody's playing games with you. I don't give a dang if you come from Japan or Jamaica. As soon as you set foot on American soil, you are now volunteering to pay those debts. At the end of the day, you knew when you came over here, as soon as you set your foot on this soil, you're sitting here going, I want a piece of all of this wealth and opulence that's going on here. Well, then you got to pay respect to the people who made it possible. If you don't like that, then you need to go to a place where they don't require that, because in this place, the sons and daughters of America's first victims, the only victims of this country, the slaves, we do require it. That's mandatory. You don't get out of that. Oh, well, that happened so long ago. No, it didn't. And the after effects, the problem is, slavery was the biggest crime in human history. And not only was this crime unpunished, it's also unfinished. It's still going on now. With the sole exception of the putting people basically into stocks and pillories or otherwise, which they do behind closed doors now. That's what the prisons are for. Every single aspect and detail of slavery has been maintained in its totality all the way up to the present. From using the preacher man on the plantation in order to keep the slaves in check and tell them that you have to be obedient to massa, and at least don't fight them. Don't be fighting them now. What would Jesus do? That's what they were doing on the plantations. Continues to this very day. And you got a whole bunch of bed wenches, which is part of the problem that we happen to have. Once you corrupt the mothers of a civilization, that civilization is effectively cut off at the knees and gutted. And if you create a situation where the man is not the leader and in too many cases doesn't even wish to be because he's confused, he was either raised the wrong way or his spirit, such as it was, has been broken. Look at Terry Crews if you want a pathetic example of that. If you wind up fostering cowardice and somebody who is going to be complacent, somebody who is going to just decide that he's going to defer to anyone and everyone, then what you have is not a man at all. The whole idea of breaking the slave. I keep telling you that the breaking process is a daily process. It's not an event, it's a process. And every day, the breaking process must repeat itself over and over again. It is a daily breaking process that we have been subjected to. We and no one else. We get singled out for oppression. And it's not being done to us because of our tax bracket. It's not being done to us because of anything that we did. It's a matter of when you're black, this is what's supposed to be done, and it's an organized effort, largely organized by the government. Look at what Kamala Harris did, if you want a clear example of that. The California Bureau of Prisons stuffs the prisoners into prisons to such a degree that it violates the Constitution. And what does Kamala Harris do? Does she look and say, hey, the Constitution is the law of the land? That's the end of it. Nope, what she says instead is, well, we know the prisons are overcrowded, but we're not letting anyone out. Even if they're non-violent offenders, we're not letting anyone go. Then when it comes time to talk about Proposition 8, the gay marriage ban that California's voters have passed, what does Kamala Harris say? Well, I have discretion, and I'm not going to defend this law in court. But the voters voted for it. They wanted that. Well, I got discretion, and that's the end. Well, what about the Bureau of Prisons overcrowding the prisons to the point that it violates the Constitution? Well, I have to defend that. I mean, I can't choose who my clients are. I disagree with what they do, but I have to defend it. See, she wants to pick and choose, because that's how the system works. There are people who the laws are going to be applied to, black people when it comes to drugs, and there are people who the law will never be applied to, white people as it applies to meth. The meth epidemic is bigger than the crack epidemic or the heroin epidemics of the 70s and 80s ever were. Yep, for some damn reason, the entire social discourse about meth, and only meth, it's a politically protected drug, it's a politically protected narcotic. The entire discourse is about prevention. It's about drug treatment. It's a public health issue. Democrats and Republicans saying that. Nobody's saying we need to build more prisons. Nobody's saying we need 3 strikes laws. Nobody's saying we need Rockefeller laws for meth. Nobody's saying we need mandatory sentencing guidelines, zero tolerance. Nobody's saying we need a war on meth. Instead, what they're saying is, oh, the drug war is wrong, it's a failure. No, it isn't. Is we got to stop that kind of talk as far as meth goes. We need people to understand when you say meth, you're talking about a drug that's protected. You're talking about a narcotic that has protection under law. These people are immune because it's dealing with white people. That's what it's really about. It ain't the drug that's being protected from law. It's not the drug that has immunity from prosecution. It's the people who use it. White people. That's what it really comes down to. All of these folks who have been eating off of our suffering, eating off of our labors, eating the fruits of our labors. You got these people who come in here, either from Europe, Asia, Africa, the Philippines, and here they are spitting on the individuals who made all of this possible. They see what the hell's being done against us, but instead of the response being, you know what, this is wrong, it's unjust, why? How many of these foreigners say, I came from a place where injustice was the rule of the land, and here they are over here in a place where the injustice is far worse, far more strident, far more blatant, and yet their response is, you Negroes, you guys, you just don't work. They know that it's a lie. They know that black people, nobody works harder than the poor. And that being the case, nobody works harder than black people. But what these guys also understand is that there's a racialist pecking order. And that the only hope that those who are not already part of the in crowd have to get something resembling less odious treatment from the white majority is that they got to dump on black people. That's the rule. It's been the rule for the longest time. The Irish showed up, they had the signs up saying no dogs or Irish allowed. This place does not serve Irish. They were not hiring Irish. What they were doing was they were hazing the Irish. Make them a little hungry. Give them a couple of smacks upside the head. Let them know that this is the kind of treatment we can expect. Unless you show that you're dedicated to team white supremacy. Come on, you know the rules. There's a racial pecking order here. You'll never be at the top of it. That's not for you. But unless you want to enjoy being at the bottom of the rest of the former slaves, you better show your allegiance to team white supremacy. What happened during the draft riots? You had a lot of these Irish immigrants and Irish people who have been Irish migrants who were being told you're going to be pressed into service in the war. Now, did the Irish decide if they were going to go after the ruling Protestant class in the U.S.? No, they didn't. What did they do? They went after black people in Boston, Baltimore, and Philadelphia. That's who the Irish went after. they show the same kind of cowardice that they showed in Ireland. You want to know why Ireland still has the Anglo-Irish running things and the Anglo-Saxons in charge? You take a look at an industrial map of Ireland and you see who owns the companies. Very few of them are actually owned by Irish. Mostly they're owned by Anglo-Irish, which are the descendants of British and Irish collaborators with Britain's occupation. Or they're just owned by outright Anglos altogether. It ain't just Northern Ireland either. So the exact same cowardice that the Irish showed in Ireland, they showed that they hadn't discovered their guts over in the New World either. They were looking for a place on team white supremacy, and as soon as they had enough hazing and they showed that they could be counted on to uphold the old. As soon as they had shown that they were going to uphold the racialist pecking order, then the designation of white was given to them. And the same thing happened with these other groups, like, say, the Italians, and this is one in particular that just makes me want to puke. The Italians, and we're talking about people who consider themselves to be educated, they love to wash your face with a little incident that happened in New Orleans. There were 11 Italians who got themselves lynched in the late 19th century. I think it was like 1890, 1891, because there was a police chief who got killed, and apparently some of the perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, they've been acquitted at trial, and what happened was apparently some of the good white folks decided that they would get their hands on these Italians. At least 11 of them were hanged in public, and they were dismembered. In other words, they were treated like black people. They treated the exact same way that black people have always been treated in this country. Now, that's pretty much the only such incident that occurred. But if you hear the Italian Americans tell the story why, they talk about it as if more Italians were killed by lynchings than black people were, the way they tell it. They love to wash their face with it every 5 seconds, trying to figure out some way to say, oh, see, we were treated as badly as black people, and yet look at our position. You see, you niggers, you niggas, you moolies, you Molianis, you don't do no work. That's what the Italians did. So you see how that whole pattern repeated itself over and over again. And the Hispanic, same thing. Going back to like the 1930s and 40s, you had the so-called braceros. These were Mexicans who were supposed to be doing work in the United States, day laborers and such. Apparently somebody missed their paychecks and sent them back home without pay, and I guess they've been nursing the boy ever since. But you see the point that I'm trying to get across here. These other migrant groups, they have just basically very small, petty incidents, not even grievances, just small misunderstandings. And yet, as far as they're concerned, somehow that puts them in the same category as us. We got to make it clear. No, you're not in the same category as us. Stop being bashful about saying that. The reason that they keep trying is because they don't see any resistance from us when they try it. Part of the same reason why it is that our music culture gets raped. We're not protecting it. We're not sticking up for it. So everybody looks and goes, well, hell, if you guys can't be bothered to protect what's yours, well, then I guess that makes it ours, because apparently you can't be bothered to protect it. No. We are an exceptional people. What happened to us was different than what happened to any other group of people in the entire history of the world, including the Jews. You do not get to claim that what happened. So 11 Italians had a misunderstanding with their European neighbors. That's not the same thing as what happened to us. Because you got one incident, which was not even the result of a misunderstanding. The police chief actually got killed in New Orleans. A death actually happened. Emmett Till, nothing happened at all. The Jonesboro Boys, nothing happened at all. The Central Park Five, nothing happened at all. Oh, but they all went to jail or got killed. That did happen. So no, you don't get to claim that garbage. Every single one of these migrants coming in here, you guys, as soon as you set foot on American soil, that's it. The meter starts running. Here's your receipt. Here's what you owe.
But I didn't do nothing. I had nothing to do with slavery.
But you coming over here trying to benefit from it, ain't you?
Hmm?
Until black people are made whole, until this country is forced to divest itself of the ill-gotten gain that it has reaped off of our black backs, until black people are restored to the condition that we should have been in to the very beginning, which is having the resources that we need to ensure our prosperity and posterity, then yeah, the meter keeps running. All these clowns, all this freaking confusion. You got these folks who have made common cause with white supremacy, and they're trying to tell us to sit on our hands while they eat the food that we cooked, that we prepared, was supposed to be in our bellies, and here they are just scarfing up what the world is supposed to be in our bellies. Don't dream. Yeah, we know it's going to ruffle some feathers. We know it's going to make people mad, because what they're really angry about is there's an exceptional group of people here in the United States, and it ain't the people who allegedly founded the country. The real founders of this country, the ones who really built it, they're asserting themselves. And because of the fact that people have not had to hear this, nobody's been saying this, nobody's been speaking boldly like this, now they're getting all caught up in their feelings. You guys shouldn't be saying that. Well, why not? It's the truth. What they're mad about is we're reminding them. We're reminding them that the people who have been locked out, shut out, and systematically kept out are the very ones who made the United States possible. Everything from its prosperity to its culture, that's what we put in place. All this other garbage, all this imitation European crap that you see going on, that's what the United States would be if it wasn't for black people. Culturally, the United States would be imitation Europe, and a poor imitation of us. Whatever you think of as being actual Americana, it's actually actual descendants of slave culture. That's what it is. It's what we made, what we built, what we made possible. That's a fact. All these other groups who have brought their so-called culture here, what the world did they bring? It didn't catch on, not the way that ours did. It did not become part of the fabric of the nation. It simply became some interesting details, which is part of the reason why a lot of that stuff was eminently forgettable. This is the thing that our culture actually represents the culture of the country. Everybody else will be eternally formed. Because the truth of the matter is, even stuff is supposed to be coming from Europe. Classical music, that's still slave thought of American. The only classical music the United States has is jazz. That's America's classical music. It was the music that represented the heart and the rhythm of the city. Not a bunch of well-to-do genteel idiots out at their lake houses or in their lofts somewhere. You need a music that everyone can look at and say, yeah, this is the music of the nation. This is the heartbeat of the society. You don't get that from some hoity-toity clowns trying to play Shostakovich's greatest hits. It don't work like that. Small niches like that may make the 1% feel as if they're so much better than everyone else, but the very fact that you're trying to be better than everyone else means you're not like the rest of the society, which means that what you're doing is not part of the social fabric. And they're mad about it. They're mad about it because at the end of the day, they know that all their claims, all these other groups, their claims of hard work and all the rest of it, they know that's a lie, they know that's a fraud. But they need us to either be silent about the fraud or to agree with it. And what's happening is we're contesting the fraud. We're arguing with the fraud. We're disproving the fraud. As Dr. John Henry Clark said, with black people, those of us who are descended from slaves, when we start winning again, a whole lot of these folks who have previously been calling themselves, I ain't black, I ain't this, that, and the third, all of a sudden they're going to want to be black. Yeah, when our team starts winning again, all of a sudden that's what they're going to be saying. There were people who just a few weeks from now, they would never have been tolerating talk about reparations stuff. That's a joke. Now that they're seeing we can have an impact on candidates, and they're candidates almost overnight are talking about reparations, or at least they're saying the words. We got the bastards saying the words now. Now they're looking and going, oh my God, it's possible. Well, where's my check? Wait a minute. That's another thing that needs to be addressed. It's not merely a matter of whether or not you can trace your lineage to slavery, just to make sure we don't have anybody who's coming from outside of the United States trying to make claims to something that ain't for them. It's also a matter of, I think that we ought to be checking people's online presence. So if you've been running around saying or posting or poo-pooing the idea of reparations before now, or you were trying to just say, well, that ain't never going to happen. If you were somebody who was not a true believer, or somebody who was basically saying put this aside, in other words, you didn't believe that black people were owed, or you didn't believe that it was necessary, in that case, then great. Your share goes to somebody else, and that's what it's supposed to be. People need to be made to pay a price for their actions. Actions should carry consequences. Yeah, you're going to have a whole lot of folks who previously been denying being black, denying being descended from slaves, or saying that that doesn't matter, or get over it. As soon as they find that it's time for the slaves to actually be compensated for their suffering, and all of a sudden, oh, that's going to be the only thing that matters. And how many of these folks out here, these immigrants, are going to be claiming that their great-great-grandfather was an octoroon? Or their great-great-great-great-grandmother was on a plantation in Florida somewhere. All of a sudden, you're going to have a lot of these folks, especially these white folks, who are going to be claiming that, well, I have a black ancestor in my family treaty, and it's going to be a con. Just like the $5 Indian thing, just like Elizabeth Warren, it's going to be a con game. They're going to be looking, trying to figure out how the world they get what's meant for us. They've been saying that up until now because it ain't true. As far as they're concerned, hey, they're white, they got their position, that's the end. But all of a sudden, they're going to be telling tall tales, inventing all sorts of fairy tales about black ancestors so they can get something out. Mm-hmm. And we got to make sure
I'm back too.
It's called foul play.
Fuck you!
No, this is not about trying to separate ourselves from the rest of the sons and daughters of Africa. We need to get it straight where we stand. We need to get it straight what place we occupy in the diaspora so that people get us right. Because a lot of the behavior we've been seeing inflicted against us, it's been foul and wrong. Let's be honest here and just call it what it is. You find hideous dysfunction, not entirely all their fault, but it's still there nonetheless. And you got a bunch of folks who, if you watch them on the news, if you watch them on the news, they act like us, they try to imitate black American slave, post-slavery dialect. They try to speak in the patois of those of us that descended from slaves. They try to do everything they can to copy us. We run around in sports jersey, they want to do it too. You got some guy in freaking Eritrea, or in Cameroon, or in Chad, or God knows where else, Namibia, South Africa, they're running around with a number 23 jersey. And you see them in front of the camera, and it's yo, 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 and all the rest of this. You ain't never even been to New York. What the hell are you doing trying to imitate some black people from Brooklyn? What the hell do you sound like? You sound crazy. But this is what's going on, because at the end of the day, we are the ones who define what is seen as black in the eyes of the world. And quiet as it's kept, we actually, especially under the horrifying conditions that we've been subjected to, we have represented the sons and daughters of Africa exceptionally well. As a group, and oftentimes, most times in fact, as individuals, we have represented the global African diaspora very well and gotten very little gratitude in return. I could see it differently if those of us here in the United States who came out of slavery, if we were trashing the rest of the African diaspora, if we were trying to find ways to run the rest of the African family into the ground, I could see that differently. We haven't. In fact, we've been one of the few who have been flying the flag high and proud against unbelievable odds. We have been the ones who have been forging and attempting to establish an identity of Pan-Africanism that crosses all lines. We've been the ones looking at all of these foreign-born black people and their descendants, looking at them as one of us. Every time you look up and you see some African descendant who gets killed, whether it's Amadou Diallo or Akai Gurley, we've been the ones out there flying the flag for them. Mm-hmm. We did not care where they came from. As far as we were concerned, they were one of us. But the problem is, in too many instances, the sentiment has not been returned. And what's happening now is there has been a schism not created by us. Now, the schism is going to be healed in time. It's going to be. But first, what's going to have to happen is those of us who are descended from slaves, we're going to have to get enough power to make sure that A, we are protected from any further attacks, but B, we're also going to have enough power so that we can go ahead and knock some sense into the rest of the family. And we got to say it like that. We cannot afford to have any of these petty arguments or everybody deciding they're going to go this or that way, or the old tribalisms and factionalisms coming to the surface. People are going to have to, the African is going to have to once again be made to reunite. This is old. This is an old problem. You can go all the way back to Kemet with that one. You want to know why Dr. John Henry Clark called the Nubian dynasties Kemet's last walk in the sun? It was because for the first time in 10,000 plus years, the two great houses of the Nile, Kush and Kemet, had finally been reunited under one roof. Now, it wasn't the longest dynasty, but it was by far the greatest because it was a restoration of a righteousness that had been missing for the longest time. Reuniting the African family under one banner. It's an idea whose time has come, and it's one that we have struggled with more than any other. And that's how we open the door to let the Europeans and the Arabs and all the rest of the dregs of the world in. And that's what happened. Because of the fact that we were too busy trying to fly the flag, the street was, and didn't understand that the game was bigger than that. You go taking that message to Africa, you will not find a very acceptable place. Let's just call it like it is. The idea of African unity, there's going to have to be a working model for that institute first, before you can have everybody else rally to it. And who better than us? But if we have anybody who decides that they're going to argue with that, they got something to say about that, they got a problem with that, they have declared themselves the enemies of black empowerment. And when you look at what it is that those of us descended from slaves have done for the entire global African family, everything that we've done, we accrue that to the collective esteem and honor and reputation of us all. On the other hand, these foreign-born black people, in too many cases, not all, but the vast majority, as far as they're concerned, they're red in the flag. That Ilhan Omar woman, she ain't flying the flag for anybody else except for Somalians, and as you can see, she's flying the flag rather poorly. She doesn't have the kind of support base that she needs. I guess she figures that the rest of us are going to come flying to her aid because she's criticizing Israel. Well, you got to balance the taken with the given. I got to see how much she and the rest of the Somalians of Minnesota have been repping Team Black Empowerment. How much have they been doing in regards to those of us who laid the stones that they're walking on? What's their attitude been? Have they been on the team, or have they been a team of one? See, we got to make it where there are consequences to not being on code. We got to make it where there's a price to be paid for not doing things right. You don't just get your butt cracked because righteousness has its foot 12 inches up your behind all of a sudden. But family, nah, you only get to call on family when you've been acting like family. And that's what we're going to teach a lot of these other groups. We're hitting the reset. Dr. John Henry Clark told us about that. I've been quoting him heavily because the Grandmaster Teacher was ahead of his time on so many things. Prescient times 10. He said that you cannot have an alliance unless you have the power to punish the partners should they break the alliance. And that's the reason why those of us whose ancestors came out of slavery experience, that's the reason why we got to get some power for ourselves. We cannot think, we cannot have a mature, intelligent conversation about building alliances with other members of the African diaspora until we first got some power that we can bring to the table. And part of that power is to make sure that people understand that when you enter into an agreement with us, you have any dealings with us, it's going to be honorable, it's going to be above board, ain't going to be no backstabbing, ain't going to be no backfighting, ain't going to be no dirtbag behavior, because we have the power to punish you if you do it. And that's the reason why they're going to be left out in the cold. They have to be left out in the cold. We're going to let white supremacy have its way. And the reason why is this is called hitting the reset button. If we make it where even under these circumstances we decide that everything is everything, we're going to go back to what it was before, then it teaches them nothing. What it teaches them is, oh, well, all we got to do is to play these dumb descendants of slaves is, let's just say white supremacy is all over me. Help, help, my African brothers, I need help. We'll bang that drum and they'll come running because they don't have any better sense. They're like Pavlovian dogs. They don't understand the nature of the game. No, show them no. No one's coming running this time. You're on your own. We will note what is being done to you. We will note how white supremacy is dismantling you. We will note it and say, see, white supremacy is on the march. But as far as flying to your aid, nah. In fact, we're enforcing the rules of one another. How many police shootings have there been? Plenty of them. They haven't stopped. But then the question becomes, how many of them have we been speaking out on? Well, ain't been too many people feeling like they want to call it white supremacy. We call it racist. So you notice how we're now remarking on it? No, we're not keeping a daily tally of the latest police shooting of an unarmed black person. Because there have to be rules. Either we're getting on code or we're not. And if you're not on code, you will not be treated as if you're on code. We don't make any exceptions. People need to be taught what the rules are. We have to make the rules clear and obvious. And this is part of that process. We are an exceptional people, and we're going to start acting like it, no matter who doesn't like it. For example, if we just use this as a case study, take the Nigerians just in particular. Love the Nigerian family. There are many of them who have their heads on straight. There are many of them who have been a big help to us in the black empowerment sphere. There have been many of them who have been very much helpful to us. They've done good work, and they're going to continue to do good work. But unfortunately, there's also a number who apparently seem to think that they're on a different team altogether. What is to be done about something like this? When we have this kind of dichotomy going on, how is this to be handled? We got some fundamental house cleaning that needs to be done. We also got to make sure that we get the rules engraved in stone and very etched in steel, so that everybody understands. Because the last thing that we need is for what we're building here to be torn apart by internal contradictions. We need for everybody to understand that there is going to be a new order under the sun, and the new order is going to merely be a restoration of the old. And we're not playing games about it. But no one's going to be able to take us seriously either within or without unless we've got power. Those of us who are on this code, it's etched into our DNA. It happens to be in our bones, it's in our blood, it's in our molecules, because we've been enduring this for so long. And there are a lot of people, some of them who look just like us, who are scared of seeing us rise. Because the problem that a lot of them have is they didn't want to be black. They got to the point now where they don't even want to be black at all. They're trying to escape blackness. And they'll try to hide their cowardice and their self-hate behind all sorts of kumbaya, oh, we're colorblind, etc. The reason why it doesn't sit well with them is they've been completely bamboozled into the idea that black rule means black misrule. I can show you plenty of incidents where black people have been in charge and run things right. But the problem happens to be, at the end of the day, we're under siege. A few islands of black competence in a sea of white hostility and malignance. It's going to be a Herculean effort. It's going to be a colossal. Effort for us to be able to make sure that we have our integrity intact so that we are in charge, remain in charge, and are able to sustain ourselves. These are the realities. But there's a lot of black people who don't like that idea. The concept of black people being in charge, well, never mind the fact that you've got white supremacy ripping you off by Wood Sunday. Never mind the fact that your roads are crumbling, the bridges are falling apart while you're driving over them, the power grid is failing, the wars are breaking the nation's back, and the economy is disintegrating in front of you. I mean, black misrule is just so much inferior to the good white rule that we've had because it's yielded so many benefits. For the 1%, you don't even share in any of that, but you're terrified that the 1% of white folks who are in charge are somehow not going to be happy. That's a slave. And these are people who are not going to be of any use to us whatsoever. There's a lot of folks, in fact, 50% in fact, who are going to be left behind and of the necessity need to be. Not everyone's going to make it to the promised land. In fact, there's a lot of them who we don't want to make it to the promised land. The entire point of the 40-year wilderness running around in circles was to let that old generation die off. Because these clowns would have brought the same old backward mentality with them to the promised land, and before it's all over, they would have been marching right back to Egypt. Can we get our old jobs back in the slave quarters? Nah, forget that. We need a clean break with the past. We need to be unapologetic about it. We need to be strident about it. We need to teach people how it is that we are to be regarded, and we need to make sure that we stand up for that. That's going to mean that a lot of these folks who've been playing this okey doke on us and trying to pretend, playing the game of we're all minorities. Nah, you're a minority. I'm the descendant of slaves. Well, we're all people of color. My color is black. I ain't no person of color.
Fuck that.
I'm
shit.
black.
Man.
You be a person of color. You go ahead and be lumped together as a polyglot. I'm black. Well, we're all disadvantaged. No, we're disadvantaged. You're just occasionally inconvenienced. Don't compare yourself to me. We are an exceptional people. Those of us descended from slaves, we're exceptional. We're different. This is not about saying that we're better than anyone else, but I'll be damned if we continue the lie that somehow we are lesser than. Because that's what the white media tries to do. And their flunkies, and not all of their flunkies are white. The white supremacy is always trying to teach that black people are inferior. That's probably the reason why they like to put out so many stats saying black people are at the bottom of this, black people are at the bottom of that. It's to reinforce a narrative. Black people are at the bottom because they're supposed to be. Their condition cannot be changed. Once we start putting out there and aggressively making it known, our condition is artificial. And it has been made to be this way, and we are targeted to make sure we're deprived of resources, that we are continually being attacked, kept under siege, harassed, never given a moment's respite. Whenever we try to build something, the forces of white supremacy and their non-white flunkies are immediately sent in to disrupt what we're doing and try to take it over or to otherwise try to spoil it. Once that becomes firmly established, once we make it clear that we're going to do what it takes to stop this because we see it clearly, don't expect all of these minorities and all of these people of color, don't expect them to be saying, hey, it's a good thing that these black people are on the rise. They're going to be the main ones saying they don't like it. They're going to be the main ones saying that they can't tolerate this, that there's something wrong with it. These talking heads that you see, the children of immigrants, like Joy Reid and Angela Rye, when they see us getting to our feet, when they see us taking power in our hands, when they see us having the ability to call hands, look what they've done just in the last couple of weeks alone. You guys need to stop saying all of this stuff about slavery. Yeah, because what they're really saying is we've been the Negroes who white supremacy's put over you, and our ability to keep our position is directly tied to whether or not we can lead you slaves around by the nose. And you guys are making it clear that you won't follow us and white supremacy won't need us. And we can't have you doing that. You're going to mess it up for us. That's what they're saying. White supremacy's hand-picked bootlicks, white supremacy's overseers that they've installed in our community, these guys are scared that we are going to bust their hustle. We're going to put a jinx on their hustle. Well, they're wrong. We ain't going to put a jinx on the hustle. We're going to destroy their hustle. We're going to annihilate their hustle. We are going to utterly obliterate it. We will leave nothing of it, not even the memory of it. And since their entire existence is completely tied to that, well, there won't be anything to sustain them either. We intend to make sure that white supremacy is repaid in kind for every single bit of maltreatment that we have received. Every insult, every attack, all of it will be paid back in full. You know what you call that? You call that justice. The world has been fighting a centuries-long war to make sure that this doesn't occur. These other groups coming in, here they are trying to eat off of us, and they do not recognize what has been done to us, and they spend most of their time trying to make excuses for it. We cannot have people who are not on our side, and here we are trying to make common cause with them or trying to be friends with them. That won't work. No, it's time for us, way past time for us, to be politically selfish. That's going to be the battle cry for 2019. We are politically selfish. We must be politically selfish. That's what Dr. John Henry Clark meant by exercising the essential selfishness of survival. We have been selfless to our own detriment. We're now on death
goddamn.
We are now on
That was fucking Wi-Fi.
Fucking
get a better goddamn Wi-Fi.
Forget it.
Bugging all over my motherfucking
They're going
screen.
to be criticizing you. These other groups, They won't like you, Will. You just don't have to hate us. When we got power, we ain't gonna be having time to hear your hate. And we won't care what you have to say because we won't have the ability to do anything. So your words will be irrelevant. Oh, that's not gonna be very popular. Damn popularity, man. Power ain't about power. In fact, power is usually the most unpopular thing in the world. It ain't gotta be popular. It just has to get your way. That's what power is about. And these immigrant groups who've been coming in here, as they see that white supremacists will criticize the game of propping up these groups as the ability to flood us with all of these non-black foreigners stops being an effective strategy. It loses its potency because we are successfully able to assert ourselves. We organize our numbers, focus our will, start choosing targets for political undermining and attack, and then we start getting our way. All of a sudden, white supremacists are like, okay, what the hell with this little strategy and trying to propping up these non-black foreigners. We aren't bringing in a whole bunch of them. They're not doing their job anyway. All of a sudden, you're going to be seeing these guys getting cut off. And here they are going to come running back to us as they did 120 years ago, trying to be our buddies, and that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. These immigrants owe us just as much as these Europeans do. They owe us, and they owe us big. So do not ever let them run that con on you that they weren't part of it, so they don't owe anything. Zbigniew Brzezinski himself, an immigrant, said that if you want to correct the past, that's going to mean imposing some consequences for the people who may not have carried out the historical sins, but they benefited from it. That's the standard. You benefited from it. See, if you're European, you can go ahead and say that. You can say that for the Japanese. You can say it for the Native Americans. That's fine. Because it doesn't matter who's in the middle of the white supremacist racialist pyramid. What matters is who's at the bottom. As long as you maintain that, everything else becomes relative. But making sure that black people are at the bottom and made to be at the bottom, and violence of all sorts, political violence, economic violence, social violence, and of course physical violence used in order to freeze that sick, degenerate order in place, hey, that's all justified. So yes, this is a good time to start collecting the quotes from all the white people who over the last few centuries have been talking about, even if the crime happened long before you were born, even if the crime was done by someone other than yourself, you got to pay the price for it because you benefited from it. Okay, it happened a long time ago, doesn't change the fact that the descendants of those people who were wronged are still here. That's the one the Jews have been using. Most of the people who were actually caught up in the Holocaust are dead now. And they've been getting caked off for 70 years. They've been getting kicked off. And now their descendants are saying, well, the countries that did it are still around, so you've been paying us all this time. Why should you stop now? Okay, so when black people come along and say, well, you know what? We got a crime far worse than what happened to the Jews. And the country who did it, or countries who did it, they're still around, and they're still living fat off of what they did to us, the greatest crime in human history. We're coming for our check. And we know you're going to kick up a fuss about it. We know you ain't going to like it, and that's going to make it so much sweeter. We're banging on the door, and soon we're going to have enough strength and enough organization where we can start kicking the door. Our demand is going to be etched in steel. And the same way that you found white supremacy's flunkies like the breakfast schlubs and Charlemagne the Chump, this guy kills me. I'm all about it for the black people. Anybody knows me for the longest time. This idiot's got a freaking book behind his head that says black privilege on it. That's meant to appeal to a white audience. That kind of stupid talk. And here he is talking all black empowerment. Yeah, everybody's black empowerment now, and the reason why is you see who speaks for the streets. I'm not interested in getting on anybody's show because at the end of the day, this ain't about trying to reach white supremacy's hand-picked flunkies and mouthpieces. This is about reaching you. That's who I'm trying to reach. You're the audience who matters because you're the ones who are going to get things done. You want to know why Kamala Harris is looking right now and wondering, oh my God, how do I get out of this fix I put myself into? It's because you guys responded the right way. You guys are what's going to determine victory or defeat. This will not be a fight overnight. It ain't going to be won overnight. White supremacy didn't take the world over overnight. We are not going to reclaim the world overnight. This is not going to be one and done. Please don't think that it all comes down to 2020.
Oh my God.
This is going to be a generational war. In fact, this is going to be the new normal. And if you ain't got what it takes to be able to put your foot to the metal and to be able to keep yourself engaged, keep the morale high, keep the energy high, and to be staying with this agenda for the next 25 years. If you can't keep this up in the next 25 years, and there's no way, you're kidding yourself if you want to talk about keeping this up forever. If this is something that wears you down and it's just too much and it ain't happening fast enough and all the rest of that, if that's the mentality you got, then you ain't built for this. This is only for the dudes. This is for the people who live this, eat this, breathe this, are this. And it's not even coming from a place of anger that much. We have righteous indignation. We have a righteous rage that must be satisfied. But the main thing that this comes from is the irresistible need that justice be done. Justice is the righting of a wrong. And yes, we have a right that justice be retributive. There must be an element of retribution to it, not merely for the white supremacists who carried out the greatest crime in human history, but for those who have come here trying to figure out how to pick over the bones of our ancestors, trying to figure out what's in it for them. Everyone who perpetrated the crime and are now currently seeking to benefit from it after the fact. Stop being bashful about calling it out. It's time to hit the reset button. It's time to let everybody know that there's going to be a fundamental rethinking of what it is that you had in mind when it comes to us. All the old assumptions no longer apply. And when these migrants show up, what they're going to be finding is there's going to be less and less black people going to their stores until eventually there's none at all. And when they try to call themselves these immigrants who think of themselves as being so high-minded, doing their best white liberal impersonation is all they're doing. When they show up, they're going to be finding the conversation different because black folks ain't going to be looking to have friends. Oh, you don't mind being seen in the same room with me? Oh, I just love you. That stuff's getting left behind. It's going to be a new political maturity that's finally coming to the surface and asserting itself. We are going to start speaking in the terms that we should have been speaking in all along. And that's in the terms of our power. Notice the wording, our power. Not merely power, but our power. And when they have a problem with it, when they decide that they just, oh, you guys, y'all aren't the way that you used to be. Y'all didn't change. Yes, no. What's happened is we've thrown off the program. We've had enough of trying to be everyone's friend. Because when you're politically mature, you understand that we are a group, and groups don't have friends. Groups have interests. Needs to take place. That's part of what this is about. Because nobody's going to feel like any serious house cleaning needs to take place until we pass the test of time when people realize, ever since we crushed Kamala Harris's would-be presidential bid, the forces of white supremacy have been running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Because they didn't expect something like this to happen. They damn sure didn't expect for it to come from us, but now it has. So what white supremacy is doing is it is employing a kitchen sink strategy. They're bringing out all the golden oldies, every move that they've ever pulled. Because at this point, it's all hands on deck. So what you've got them trying to pull this card because black women had left the reservation 60 years ago, but it seems like a critical mass of them have come back, and as far as they're concerned, no, the divide and conquer strategy must be in full effect. They're trying to bring out the old preachers because, hey, black folks just love a good sermon. And then they're trying to bring out folks with this black-brown alliance, or rather we should call it what it would be, a brown-black alliance. They want us to be following them. Julian Castro is attempting to pull this one. They're just going overboard. They're trying to do everything that they can to get us off of this because the first thing is, okay, we get it. You guys have got a full head of steam about something. Oh, this reparations thing. Okay, we'll go ahead and say reparations a couple of times. And then what we'll tell you is, yeah, reparations for all disadvantaged people. That's the thing. When you listen to them, see if they say black. If you tell them we're going to talk about reparations and the first thing they start saying is disadvantaged minorities, inner city, places that are underprivileged. They start doing that crap, forget it. If they can't say black and stick to only black, then we ain't with it. This is the reason why we have weaponized the ballot box. I just love having these trolls and morons, either in my comment section or on my Twitter feed, whining like a bunch of babies about, well, Donald Trump, we can't risk him getting reelected. What are you talking about? Well, what's Donald Trump gonna do? He's racist. So of the other 40 some odd presidents, including Barack Obama, what's your point? Oh, well, if you don't like Donald Trump as president, then you might want to decide what's more important to you then. Donald Trump remaining president, or whether or not you do right by black people. Because if you're going to continue the old with nothing for black folks, though, then you better get ready for Donald Trump to get reelected in 2020, and get ready for President Mike Pence in 2024, and get ready for the re-election of President Mike Pence in 2028, and whatever the hell else comes after, because if these guys don't get stopped, you better believe it's not going to be Mike Pence who's the real problem. It's going to be whomever comes after him. So you got a choice then. Are you going to offer the United States as a sacrifice on the altar of your arrogance and belligerence and your refusal to do what's right, or are you going to go ahead and do what's right? Well, we know what the answer is. You're going to do what we want when we break you to our will. And that's why we're letting Trump remain in there. We're going to make sure he stays in there. Why shouldn't we? When the pain gets great enough, you white supremacist trash, whether you're on the left or the right, you ain't got no guts. When the pain gets too much, you'll say, okay, enough. So we're going to go ahead and let you stew in your own juices. We're going to make sure you understand that when you deal with black folks, it's going to be about respect. See, we've learned the lesson.
Stop doing that, man. We're not trying to be popular. Why I still see these red dots?
Popular, as I've always told you, all you got to do is say yes to everyone. If you want to know how to be popular, just say yes to everyone. But you also wind up being a doormat, too. That's what happens when people say yes all the time. People take advantage of it. Oh, they'll like you because they know they can take advantage of it. But if you want to be respected, you better start learning to say no. Because when you start telling people no, they can't just run up in your face and just get something out of you willy-nilly. When they come up to you, they got to think first. They have to consider first. When they deal with you, they know that this is somebody who I can't just take for granted. I show up, I got to come correct or not come at all. They know that. And you better know that too. Politics is a business transaction. So far, they're all trying to figure out if they can buy us off with words. Well, if we just give you niggers a little bit of lip service, we know how you niggers are. You guys always, you just want somebody to say it, the word once or twice. Okay, fine, then we'll say it once or twice and we'll bury it. We'll always make sure to say reparations is for everybody. No, we're looking to level the playing field. And that being the case, you're going to have to get with that program. And yes, we know that it's going to be politically destabilizing the country. That's the entire point. We want white supremacy to be destabilized. We are trying to bring white supremacy down. That's the entire point. The white supremacist trash who run YouTube, they understand that they depend on white supremacy for every crumb of their daily bread. So they don't want black folks thinking that we're supposed to be making the political system, the electoral system, unworkable. Because that's what happens when you break one of the electoral arms of white supremacy's administrative arm. When you take one of the two wings of the white supremacist plutocrat party and rip that wing off and break that wing, which is what we're doing to the left wing of white supremacy, we're breaking it. Then what happens is that bird ain't getting off the ground, just gonna be flapping there and not doing anything. It's gonna be in a lot of pain, but it won't be going anywhere. They know exactly what this means. They know exactly what the historical and political implications are when you have whole segments of society who decide that they're going to turn their back on the ballot box. They know that you don't just have a short-term problem, you have an imminent problem. You got an issue where you don't need people deciding, well, that ballot box is only for those folk over there. Or that ballot box doesn't mean anything. Or that ballot box has no legitimacy, which means what happens in a country where people start deciding, whole segments of the society decide that the person in charge has no legitimacy? Well, what you get is Venezuela. That's what you get. White supremacy is trying to figure out if they can just come up with some weasel words, and that'll get us back on board unfortunately, a critical mass of black folks have now congregated here. They've migrated to voices like this one, who are telling black folks, nah, we're not doing the okie doke. See, Jesse Jackson can't get you out of this one. That's what the chumps in the Democrat Party need to understand. Your black bootlicks, the people who you put on TV, they're not going to be able to bail you out this time. They can't get you out of this one. You're not going to bring on Simone Sanders and Angela Rye with mustard and lettuce on the side and think that they're going to give a couple of piddling lip service words to us, and apparently we're supposed to go, yeah, we'll listen to what they say. Nah, we're here, we're seeing them talk. As far as we're concerned, hey, look at these idiots. They think they're going to trick us. That's what's happening. We're looking at them, but it's not because we're taking what they say seriously. We're looking at them and going, yeah, look at the pathetic bootlicks for white supremacy, desperately trying to figure out how they can get us back on board with their plantation, and it ain't going to work. White supremacy understands exactly what it is that we're demanding. We are demanding that they dismantle this anti-black regime with their own hands, and if we put enough pain on them, they'll do it. We understand that this is going to be a long-term project. Long-term being, this is going to be the work of years, not decades. We can win this, but first of all, we got to show for the ages. We got to show that we're willing to show the persistence. We've been consistently inconsistent. Black folks who have a head of steam for a couple of weeks and then it's over. No. When it comes to elections, which in the United States is basically a full-time occupation, it's a full-time process. When it comes to elections, the issue for black folks is reparations. And the larger issue over that, the overarching issue, is tangibles. You come into black folks, you better be showing up with some tangibles. What's black folks' issue? Tangibles. What can you put in my hand? Tangibles. That's our election issue. The immigrants got theirs, the white folks got theirs, and we got ours. Except the difference is they're looking and going, well, but we can't give you your election issue because this country is based on anti-black racism. It's not based on what we did to the Indians or what we did to the Japanese. It's not based on that. It's based on what we did to you. That's what forms the foundation of this country. We can't get rid of that. Well, you're not going to have a choice. The reason the bad guys are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, the reason that political bigwigs from Howard Dean to Mark Morial are nutting up is because black people are asserting ourselves. And by the way, Bernie Sanders is from Vermont, ain't he? And you know who else is from Vermont? Howard Dean. And how do both of those jackasses feel about reparations? They don't support them. These supposed to be Yankees here. These supposed to be good white liberals from up north here. Bernie Sanders is supposed to be a Jewish liberal. He washes your face with that every 5 seconds. He wants to remind you. I mean, there's not a freaking stop that he's had where he doesn't remind you that he's Jewish. The bought and paid for black bootlicks who white power uses to control us and to disperse the revolutionary energy that we keep amassing has failed. It's failed this time. Because the movement is not being led by a leader, which means you're not going to be able to nominate a bootlick to be the mouthpiece or the face of or the spokesperson for this movement. The ideology is the movement. We don't have a leader, we got teams now. The teams are united amongst a common strategy, a common goal, a common purpose, a common agenda. White supremacy has placed black bootlicks at all levels and throughout every strata of our community. They are there as the control mechanism. Every time you look up, you got these Negroes who nobody can figure out where the hell their money came from, yet they always seem to have money for their political campaigns, and they always seem to be invited to certain parties that nobody else gets invited to. They always are having lunches with such and such a white person, such and such a congressman, such and such a sheriff, such and such a mayor. It's like, where the hell are these guys at the belly of the ball? Because white power is letting you know. These are the Negroes who we have put in place as the overseers within the black community. They are our eyes, ears, and hands within the black community, and their job is that you're going to have them in the room because you're going to trust them because they're one of you. And yet, whenever you guys decide that it's time to overthrow white supremacy, well, here's going to be Roly-Poly Martin. Here's going to be Michael Eric Dyson. Here's going to be Joy Reid. Well, here's going to be Angela Rye. You guys seem to think that immigrants are working against your interests, and that one, that's oversimplification, and two, it's just not true, and three, it's very dangerous for you to be saying that because, well, I'm an immigrant, and what you're saying is you don't want me to rule over you, and that's very dangerous. That's very, very dangerous for you not to want me to rule over you, because I'm the one who knows what's in your best interest. That's very dangerous. That's what's happening here. We're bringing it all down. White supremacy and their bootlicks understand that when this thing falls, when this ship sinks, when the great ship white supremacy Titanic goes down, it's going to have all hands aboard. Ain't going to be no lifeboats because we already cut those loose first. White supremacy put the black bootlicks over us, but what's happening is we're driving these traitors out. We are cutting off the ears and gouging the eyes of white supremacy among us. You're not going to be slipping any agents into this movement because folks already understand that who they're going to be listening to are the ones who have proven themselves tried and true. The voices who have been out here for over a decade and who have proven themselves. So no, you're not going to be trying to find some Negro online who you can raise up. The old trick of, well, we're going to find some black person who we've appointed, like Roly-Poly. Yeah, that's it, Roly-Poly. And we're going to give him a broom closet with a table in it, and we're going to have a couple of flashlights and say that this is the Roland Martin Unfiltered. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Yeah, kind of the same way that you've got a sewer line that's unfiltered, just full of crap. But that's what they're hoping for. But before it's all over, expect to have some joker that you never heard of, or perhaps maybe someone who we might have heard of in passing, who all of a sudden will be trying to tell us, well, yeah, but we don't want to cut off the folks who happen to be from the Caribbean. We all of us are victims of slavery. Can't just limit it to American descendants of slaves. And wait a minute, what about the LGBTs? Look, if there's one thing that should have come out of this whole reparations deal, especially as it relates to the banner classification, American descendants of slaves, that's a classification that cuts across all lines, as long as you came out of the American experience of slavery. It applies to black people, descendants of slaves, whether you're straight or gay. It applies to you whether you are male or female. It applies to you whether you are Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or whatever the world else there is. It applies to you no matter your political classification. I am saddened to say that it would apply to people like David Clark and Clarence Thomas, though of course we should be going through their paperwork, when the whole reparations thing gets rolling. Let's make sure we find all the times that Clarence Thomas decided to mark other on his applications, and David Clark and the rest. Just because they may be descendants of slaves doesn't mean that we need to be cutting them a check, because after all, they don't need it. But the point is, if anything, American descendants of slaves, just as a classification, as an umbrella term, it cuts across all those lines. It is a unifying principle. So somebody coming along trying to do some intersectionalist talk, that's division. They're trying to figure out, hey, we know that there's some of y'all out there who are going to be saying, well, I got some Portuguese in me, and I got some Filipino and some Swedish, and don't forget about the British too. I got some British ancestry. They know that there's some of you dysfunctional clowns out there who keep doing that mess. In fact, I posted on my Twitter feed today that Julian Castro, his campaign manager, some woman named Maya Rupert, said, and I quote, "We say after every election, black women showed up in droves. They are consistently voting not just for their own interests, but for all progressive-minded people." This is the campaign manager, who's a black woman, by the way, for Julian Castro. This is what they're saying about black females.
Sisters?
About these black sisters, this is what they're saying about you. That you have shown them time and time again that you vote consistently not for your interest, but for everyone else's interest. And the Houston Chronicle piece that I linked to on my Twitter page And you got Julian Castro happy as hell as far as he's concerned. If I can get the black female vote, hell, I got the black vote on lock. I might as well, I got the entire black vote around the neck. Events will show whether or not Julian Castro is right or wrong. It needs to be a brand new day across the board. All of that divide and conquer bullcrap that's been pulled successfully for all these decades, we're gonna see which ones of us prove them wrong and which ones of them prove the bad guys right. Because what's happening right now is it's easy to point to a Angela Rye with mustard and lettuce on the side, and Joy Reid and the rest of these. It's easy to point to these clowns because we've been coming out against them for the longest time. But what about the ones who've been sitting among us, who, as they see this talk gaining more and more steam, and as they see that, no, this is going to be the new normal, which means this is what the black community in the United States stance is going to be on these issues today, tomorrow, and always. This is not about one election cycle. This is not about one president or one presidential candidate. This is not about one electoral race. This is the new normal, which means that you come back 50 years from now, guess what? It's still going to be the black people who came out of American slavery. And we do this not to separate ourselves from the African diaspora, but we live in a real world with real circumstances. And we have to be honest about the fact that since we have faced so much disrespect, not from all, but from too damn many within the diaspora, we felt it necessary to clarify our position within the diaspora. We're still part of the organization. We're always going to be part of the organization. That will never change. But what has changed is we have now clarified our position within the organization. That's what we've done. We've clarified it. The same way that these other groups have made it clear that a right of return for the descendants of American slaves, apparently that's not on the table. The same way that they've made it clear that some of them, too many of them, like to take little digs at us, or some of them, too many of them, like to try to run us into the ground. Well, we have never done that to them. We have a number of issues, many of them forced upon us by the Europeans, saddled with all sorts of problems that we previously didn't have before, particularly our loyalty system to one another. We have a number of issues that were foisted upon us by our enemies, but we also have some that we came by honestly as well, and we need to be truthful about both of them so that we can deal with them. Forced certain problems on us, but he also took advantage of certain pre-existing problems that we had. He had been practicing divide and conquer in Europe for 1,000 years before he brought his show on the road to Africa. So when he saw some of those conditions in Africa, he was like, well, this is right out of my playbook. I know exactly what to do about this, and that's exactly what he did. He got folks to be sitting here. It's one thing to be proud of where you came from, wherever in the diaspora you are. But when you decide that you're going to cross the line, there is one line that you cannot cross, and that is the respect line. You never cross that line. Problem is, you go up and talk to those Somalians in Minnesota, they cross the respect line all day long. They spitting on it all day long. And you talk to those Jamaicans in New York, they spitting on the respect line all day long. And you talk to those Nigerians in Baltimore and D.C., they spitting on the line all day long. In too many cases, Joy Reid and all these clowns that is spitting on the line. Too many of these Haitians in Florida spitting on the line all day long. That respect line is a line that we as the diaspora never cross. Because just as what's true for the individual is true for the group, what that means is when we say we're all we got, it means that as a group. If you're a Jamaican, you have a reparations claim against the British. And I would never begrudge you that. But guess what else I would never do? I would also never go to Jamaica and say, man, you bunch of ganja smoking Rastafari. You got a bunch of ropes for hair. What the hell's wrong with you people? I would never sit there and try to magnify myself over my brothers in Jamaica. I would never do that. And I would also never call myself trying to speak as some authority over them as if I know something about them that they don't know. Problem is, we've had too many of the diaspora who showed up here doing that mess, and you can't just hide behind, well, white supremacy did a very good job of vetting these guys. Yeah, they did, but the problem is that when you go to some of these countries, what you find is the same mess going on. So we got some issues, family. We got some house cleaning that needs to take place. That's part of what this is about. Because nobody's going to feel like any serious how cleaning needs to take place until we pass the test of time, when people realize, nah, the way that we were trying to go along to get along before, and how we were everybody's advocates except for ourselves, and we're flying the flag for Pan-Africanism, and we're flying the flag for the great, happy African global family, when everybody else is sitting here either taking cheap shots at us or running us into the ground or trying to find some way to put us down, people need to understand, no, we're hitting the reset button with everyone. We're resetting our relationship with everybody. That's what's going to happen here. Now, a lot of folks are going to look and say, we understand, you're right. You guys have been the whipping boys for everybody else, and you guys have been flying the flag for the African family as a whole globally, proudly, and unfortunately you haven't been reciprocated with, and you know what? You are right for what you're doing. There are going to be those who get it, but there will be others who are looking and going, well, hell, you've been our footstools all this time. You guys have been our doormats all this time. You've been letting us slap you in the face and get away with it all this time. Why are you getting offended now? And that's the problem. We've conditioned them to believe that apparently they can just keep on getting away with it. Like, our place in the world is to be their punching bag. Our place in the world is to be their spittoon. Our place in the world is to be their lackey and their underlings. And our place in the world is to be the ones who everybody gets to kick around. We've conditioned them to think that. Time to condition them differently. Time to condition them to the reality. Everyone. We got to make sure everybody gets this straight. Because once the African diaspora gets their minds right and understands that it's a brand new day, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of folks who look and say, man, they're straightening out their relationships amongst themselves in the U.S. They are also finally straightening out their relationships with the rest of the diaspora. These guys are going to be burying a lot of these problems, and when they come back out the gate, they're going to come out the gate swinging, and they're going to be unified. And we're not going to be able to pull the same divide and conquer tactics as 500 years ago, because everybody really got in their mind straight. They're trying to stop that process now. And get ready to see a whole lot of these folks who you've been looking at in Congress, other than Kamala Harris, who have immigrant roots. Get ready for them to be bringing that out. A lot of these folks who say, well, I don't necessarily, my family came out of slavery too. It just wasn't American slavery. See, we were slaves too. It just wasn't American slavery. How can you say that there's a difference? Because you guys have been sitting over there with them people. You've been advocating for your particular group and no one else, even though the descendants of American slaves happen to be the majority. You've been doing that mess. So you've been drawing lines of distinction between yourselves and us. All we're doing is we're agreeing with you. Now, why would you be mad that we're agreeing with you? Because what's happened is, in the past, you were the one dealing from a position of strength given to you by white supremacy. We're dealing from a position of strength given to us by us. And white supremacy had nothing to do with it, which means you will have nothing to do with it. You don't have the ability to elbow your way into the room this time. We've locked you out. And what's happening is you're looking at clowns like Mark Moore. They can see the iron wall of their obsolescence coming at them at 1,000,000 miles an hour. They can see that they're about all of irrelevance, because once we knock them out the box, once we have an entire 2 or 3 presidential cycles that pass where the black bootlicks, the clowns on television, these idiots are not able to say anything that reflects the reality of the black vote, the black electorate. Once we show, we demonstrate, these guys on TV, they mean nothing. What's going to happen is they're going to try to pretty it up at first by saying, well, there's some rabble-rousers online, and they're extremists on all sides, if there's an alt-right, I guess this is the alt-left. Same way they try to make black folks into Antifa, like we got anything to do with that crap when it's actually a bunch of white folk. Guess what? The same way they try to make us into the face of sexual harassment and assault in America, they'll be trying to do the same thing here. It's going to be a variation on the exact same theme. That, well, black people are the bad guys in all situations. They're the root of all evil. Why? Take a look at these people who refuse to take up the banner against Donald Trump. They refuse to get on board with mass immigration. They refuse to get on board with the LGBT whatever. These guys, they're just basically the alt-left. Well, there's extremists in every group. You got white supremacists, you got these black supremacists over here too, see? And you will be hearing that. And the same people who are pretending to be on board with reparations right now, Angela with mustard and lettuce on the side, she's going to be the one out there just selling the soap, saying, well, we tried, but, you got to have a coalition. You can't just be out there by yourselves. You got to have a coalition, and that means you do what the Democrats tell you to do. Angela Rye is a political operative, been one her entire life. Simone Sanders, political operative, been one her entire life. Roly-Poly Martin, a failed political operative, and he's been failing his entire life. All these clowns have been working with these campaigns. These guys are not any sort of black active, because they're not any civil rights anything. They're Democrat tools. That's what they are. And what's happening is we're throwing out the toolbox. White supremacy could never have held us in check without having people within our community, traitors, to promote and protect white supremacy, and to disrupt our own internal politics to make sure that everything that we do always gets derailed, always gets thrown off track, and always gets dragged to some sort of white supremacist scheme. We've called these bastards out. We've pointed them out, and we're casting them out. We're purging ourselves of these traitors within. To white power, this is terrifying, because if we don't have white power black flunkies misleading us, then there's only one direction for us to go: taking our power back from white supremacy. And they understand that what this is going to mean is that they're going to be losing power. And they don't believe in losing power for anything. Their position is extremely delicate. They don't want to see us threatening that. They're trying to head it off now, but they don't know how is the problem, because of the fact that they don't have anybody to buy off. They don't have any connections within this black empowerment sphere. They don't have anybody who they can go to and say, hey, can you go talk to that Professor Truth guy? Can you go talk to that TBA guy? Can you go talk to that Tariq guy? Can you go talk to that Tarian Rain guy? Can you go talk to any of the other voices in that black empowerment? This reparations thing, and talking about how it's all about black and they're not looking out for anybody else. Can you talk to them about that? Hey, can you invite them to one of our parties? Hey, there's some white women over here. Hey, there's a white man over here. The tools are not going to work. They don't have any means of making any inroads. We've cut them off at the knees. This is not going to be something where they can use the tried and true playbook, because we have neutralized those plays. They don't have any sort of people who they can appeal to and send them to come talk to us, because we ain't talking to them. They didn't come out of this, so they are verboten here. And we have done the yeoman's work for the last decade, almost decade and a half now, of educating you that these black folks who you see on TV, they are not your friends. So it's a matter of, even if those of us who are the leading voices of black empowerment on the internet today, even if we disappear tomorrow, the problem wouldn't go away, because you guys have been successfully brainwashed. We washed your minds. We cleansed your minds of that garbage. So you guys now know what to do even without us here. But that ain't saying we're going to be taking no time off, because at the end of the day, we want to see our team win as much as you do. They want to head this off, and every move that they make to try to deflect, dodge, and distract it only makes things worse. We're getting over our codependency issues. We're finally dealing with our inferiority complex. Having Elizabeth Warren or Alexandria Cortez trying to appropriate reparations, that has only angered us more. Now, they can go ahead and pretend to themselves that, well, as long as we don't say it on CNN, as long as we don't say it on MSNBC, as long as we don't say it in the New York Times, well, it'll be as if it didn't happen, because it's only going to be among those black folks on the internet. Yeah, but the black folks on the internet are the ones who set the frame and set the tone for everybody else. Because out of 45 million ex-slaves, we're the only ones who are organized. Yeah, the corrupt and crumbling fossils, those civil rights retreads over at the Urban League with Mark Moron Morial, over at the NAACP, and all these other professional do-nothing societies, these guys represent basically the 65 to dead demo of black folks. They're not the future. Hell, they're not even the present anymore. These guys are just sitting there, twiddling their thumbs, singing church hymns, talking about the old days when they were chasing white women or trying to shake their butts for white men back in the 70s. That's what they're about. That's what they were reduced to. So these guys are the definition of irrelevant, and that's the reason why you don't see any of us talking about, well, if we could take over the Urban League or take over the NAACP, why would I want to take over a court? No, they were created by white supremacy as tools of white supremacy, and we're breaking white supremacy's tools. So trying to figure out how you can have some black bootlicks tell us that, well, you don't need to be mad at Alexandria Cortez. We need a coalition. Nah, coalition's dead. We tried that. Didn't work. We ain't trying it again. We see through the scam, and we're becoming louder and more strident. The political issue is going to be what's in it for those of us black folks who came out of slavery and us alone. When you mention these other groups, the reaction you get from us, the survivors of slavery, it's going to be vociferous and it's going to be in your face. That's the reason why I talked about we need to have dedicated pressure groups. We need to have people on the ground who make it clear when Bernie Sanders holds his little do-nothing rallies where he's got 5 or 6 black folk all behind him, right behind him on the podium, so that when you do those close-up camera shots, you can see the 5 or 6 black supporters that he's got. When he tries that crap to let them know you're not getting away with it, we see what you're doing. So the old ploys and the old word games and the old so-called image crafting, all of the fake imagery, that ain't gonna work. I told you about that whole scam in my classic video, Why Roger Ailes is Not Going Away, which you can find in the archives on this channel. Back in the 60s, Joe McGinnis, with his book, Making of the President, 1968, he was giving a quote from Roger Ailes when he was working on Richard Nixon's first presidential campaign, that in places like Philadelphia and Baltimore, that they had to have more than 1 or 2 Negroes in the crowd because the voting base in those cities was at least 30% black. That's what Roger Ailes saying, well, we got to have a few of them in there, not too many, because we ain't trying to offend the southern folks who don't like to see black people. We don't want them thinking that we're for everybody. But we need to have a few of them because black voters, they're going to notice if there's no black people in the audience. In a place like Philadelphia, we got to have a few of them. And well, once we do that, though, we're going to be stuck doing it, so we got to be careful how many black votes we put in, because if we suddenly remove them, then the media is going to say, why no Negroes in the picture all of a sudden? That's what Roger Ailes was saying 50-plus years ago, back in the freaking 1960s. He was saying that back then. So this whole thing of trying to manipulate us by putting 1 or 2 of our own in the image, that's an old trick. We got to show them, though, that the trick don't work anymore. We got to show them that we're not anyone's suckers anymore. You're not going to make us ashamed of demanding things for ourselves. We're becoming politically selfish, which we should have done back in 1865, but you know what? We're making up for lost time now. We're becoming politically selfish. Oh, well, what about friends? Friends are overrated. Where's my tangibles? Well, we got to do coalition building. Coalition is for the weak. Strong people don't go looking for coalitions because they got enough. Coalitions is what you look for when you ain't got enough power to get things done on your own. You bring me my tangibles. Cut the check. That's what you need to be doing. Cut the check. And by demanding things for ourselves alone, it's going to make it where everyone gets put on notice. We are not looking for friends. We're looking for power. So when you come running up to black folks, everyone's going to know, well, you better not go run up to black folks. Why not? Because the first thing they're going to say to you is, where's my check at? That's what they're going to say. In other words, when you come to black folks, it ain't going to be about, let me go ahead and give you some lip service. And I'm going to say black people are my best friends, and black people have been neglected. They've been saying that crap since 1865. Unless you're cutting a check, I don't want to hear it. And the reason I'm going so hard in the paint for this is my biggest fear is not that we're not going to get reparations. If we speak in one persistent voice, and if we are determined and we put aggressive action behind it, if we make it where they can't hide from reparations and nobody gets to sit this one out, everyone's told you got to go on the record whether you want to or not. That's what I mean by a dedicated pressure group. Make it where every time they look up, yeah, someone else is going to be running up to you with a cell phone saying, say, about that reparations thing. You ran in Philadelphia, you ran in Baltimore, you ran in New York. Hey, you're still running, Bernie. That's the thing. Put these bastards on the run. If they refuse to make the commitment, put them on the run. My biggest fear is that white supremacy is going to announce some empty do-nothing program Or perhaps they're going to say, hey, we got a $2 tax rebate. And that there could be some of y'all out there who are going to look and say, well, that's just the beginning. Well, they got to do something small. Oh, so the country got a lot of debt, you see, got a lot of national debt. You know, they don't never tell AIPAC the country's got tons of national debt. We're $20 trillion in debt, so we can't give you a $38 billion defense package. Not over 10 years, not over 100 years. We're broke. Country's broke. They don't do that. Wall Street said give us $750 billion back in 2008. Congress said done. Israel says give us $38 billion, $3.5 billion a year. Congress said done. Black folks say you're going to pay for the biggest crime in human history for the people who built this country. Congress says, ooh, look at the time, gotta go. Sorry, the checkbook's empty. No, the National Treasury, you're not going to give us that crap about the National Treasury is closed just because you saw black folks finally storming the gates. That ain't going to happen. That ain't flying. We know what the hell was done against us. It's a brand new day, and today is payday. That's what it is, folks. It's a brand new day, America. Today is payday. And we're not going to be giving them permission to declare themselves innocent of a sin that they committed against us. You're not going to have the New York Times and Fortune magazine saying that Democrats are trying to wrap their heads around the reparations thing. What are they going to do about it? No. Kamala Harris, the same Kamala Harris who declared that she's not going to do anything that's only for black people. Great. In that case, then tell her to dismiss herself, because she just did that. She just dismissed herself. She's not going to have any say over this. Look, when it comes time to talk about Jewish reparations, you take a look at who put together those studies. You take a look at who it is who writes the proposals. It's all Jews top to bottom. Ain't a single Gentile on the list. You know what? That's fine. You're talking about an issue that's for Jews. You want to make it where Jews are guaranteed that it's done to their satisfaction, and the same thing goes here. You ain't going to just put black folks up there, because otherwise you get Ta-Nehisi Coates, who will have Alexandria Cortez say, it needs to be for everyone, starting from the New Deal forward, and he'll be sitting there silent going, yes, ma'am, just check mark, yep, for everyone, starting from the New Deal. Social justice, you see, Chris Hayes is my friend. I want to get back on MSNBC, and this is, where I stand is different than these radicals over there, those black first radicals. I'm not like them. That's not the kind of person that you want in the room. You do not want somebody like that in the room when it comes time to talk about who's going to be getting what. When it comes time to structure how the payout's going to work. You don't want somebody like that. What you want are some of the folks who are going hard in the paint for it. You want people from our sphere. We have more than enough experts within our own ranks. We're not going to have the same people who have been denying us reparations and been lying about reparations and have been insulting us and attacking us. They're going to be the ones choosing how it goes. The hell they will. That's why we got to get in their faces about it. Nancy Pelosi needs to be put on Front Street live on camera and told, you are not going to be doing anything with reparations yourself. We are going to tell you what it is, and you are going to listen to what we say and do what we say. And tell them, Nancy Pelosi, you ain't going to be part of this. Kamala Harris, you'll have no say in this. Bernie Sanders, you'll have no say in this. Julian Castro, you'll have no say in this. Like I told you, we will not have come into our own until we first demonstrate that we have the ability to destroy the campaigns of white candidates. Going after Kamala Harris and crushing her campaign means very little. White supremacy is not based on having their black flunkies out there. White supremacy is based on making sure that it's a closed club for whites only. That's what it's actually based on. Just like when they integrated the lunch counters in the movie theaters, they want to tell us that getting some sort of government program is going to be reparations. That's going to be what counts as all done. See, we fixed the greatest crime in human history because Kamala Harris passed some lift program that's for everybody. And here the black baby boomers thought that lunch counters in movie theaters was some kind of victory. Malcolm told you about that back in the day. We, those of us who are Generation X and the millennials and the post-millennials, truth be told, we have to prove that we've learned from the utter failure of Generation Fail. And that's what we're doing right now. We're showing the persistence. We are showing that, no, this is not going away. We're speaking with our own voices. We're locking out the people who shouldn't be here. We're showing the political discipline. We're showing that we're serious. And we have to also maintain that seriousness because white supremacy is not just going to sit on its hands while we dismantle it. What they're going to do is, since they can't get elements among this movement, they're going to try to invent some. And I'm not talking about the usual suspects, though it may be. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden Roly-Poly gets another TV show, and he won't be talking that kind of stuff that he was talking last week. It's going to be the old Roland Martin. Not this new Roland Martin who realizes that he's only half a hair away from oblivion. It's going to be the old Roly-Poly. Out there dancing a jig with Bernie Sanders next time. But expect to see some person who you never heard of, the same way that they did with Barack Obama. None of us ever heard of Barack Obama until they plucked him from obscurity. None of you heard of Kamala Harris until suddenly she becomes Attorney General of California. That's what they're going to try. The white media is going to try to find some compliant black bootlicks. They're going to be trying to find some Joy Reid types, and all of a sudden you're going to have these clowns who you never heard of. They're going to be getting all sorts of exposure on television. What do you think? Why do you think I was showing you that stuff with the breakfast schlubs on Ari Melber's show? He never had them on before, but he's got them on now. And all of a sudden you got Roly-Poly back on cable television again. They hadn't had him as a guest contributor to anything in so long, it ain't funny. But they got him back now. This is the white media on the left and the right attempting to engineer a narrative that they will control because they're going to have black flunkies who have never been talking this black first stuff all of a sudden trying to act like they talk for us. Don't let Charlemagne the Fraud and DJ Penis Envy convince you that somehow they're on this black agenda. To hell with it. You can't be sitting here shucking and jiving and talking about who's Drake beefing with and who's Cardi B sleeping with one moment and then the next moment talking about reparations. Are you kidding? Is this a joke? Yes, it is a joke, but it ain't funny. So that's the reason why we're not going to be having any of these people who white supremacy's been feeding for so long, having them talking to us. No way. This is about making sure that when we dismantle white supremacy, that means we dismantle their black bootlicks and flunkies too. So all you clowns out there who are trying to reinvent yourselves as black empowerment types, figuring that if you just use a little bit of our verbiage, if you just toss around a little bit of our lingo, if you decide that you're going to trade in one or two of our talking points, and somehow that's going to fool people into getting with you. Oh, look over here, Angela Rye, she said white supremacy. Yeah, for the first time in forever. You're not fooling anybody. The old game is over. White supremacy doesn't have the power to unilaterally make you the mouthpiece of anything anymore. Even if they put you in the room and have Nancy Pelosi sign some legislation today saying that every black person in America and everybody else who makes under $200,000 a year is going to receive a $10 tax rebate. Reparations at last. That ain't going to fool anybody. You're not going to be able to bestow the position of black empowerment leader on your black bootlicks. YouTube won't be able to censor it either. You won't be able to bestow the title of reparations are paid for, reparations are finally a settled issue on yourselves. We will be the only ones who can say that. And by the way, just so you know, what we're going to be doing is going to be just like what the Jews are doing. As soon as you decide, well, we just realized we had $10 trillion sitting around and we're going to cut you a check. Whoa. Thank you. And next year, we'll let you know what the next check will be. Say what? Yes. It's going to be exactly like the Holocaust survivors. What's going to be happening is generations of black folk, even after we're dead, we're going to still have our children stepping up to them and saying, now, we're here to take our check, too. Ain't going to be no more of this, where's my check? It's going to be we're taking the check. We're taking the checkbook, and we are writing out whatever the hell number we want. And next year, we're coming back and doing the same damn thing. That's what it's going to be. So ain't going to be no one and done lump sum payout. This ain't how it works. The greatest crime in human history, and you think you're getting off the hook with just one little payment? Ain't even. We are going to subject white supremacy to a breaking process, and this is how it works. Every time they look up, it's going to be something else. We will rip white supremacy, tear white supremacy, stomp white supremacy, crush white supremacy, until not even the dust of its memory is left. As Dr. John Henrik Clarke taught us, white supremacy doesn't have a problem giving you some petty trinkets. Oh, you want an integrated lunch counter? Well, they'll make you fight tooth and nail for it. That way, when they do it, you'll think you actually won something. You won nothing at all, but they made you fight tooth and nail for it, so you have to convince yourself that you won something. Because you weren't asked major anyway. You'll know when white supremacy doesn't want to do something because they're going to do a full court press like what they're doing right now. As long as it doesn't require white supremacy to give up any of their power, they have no problem giving you something. Dr. John Henry Clark instructed you on that. So the first thing you need to be asking is what I'm doing going to deprive white supremacy of its power? Well, do you know where their power comes from? It comes from the strength of their economy. So instead of asking for a lunch counter, which basically you asking, can I have a nice place to give you my economic power, you need to be looking, trying to find ways to take his. White supremacy doesn't get its power from their lunch counters or their movie theaters. They get it from their economy and the military force used to protect them.
Battery low.
They have tens of trillions of dollars in economic power every single year. White power generates tens of trillions of dollars in economic power every single year. Now you go backwards to the late 16th century, because truth be told, 1619 ain't really the beginning of this whole thing. You got to start in the 16th century if you want the truth of it. But if you decide to use progressive scaling to go back 500 years, then you understand that trying to tell black folks that even half $500 million, oh, we're gonna, okay, $100 billion, nah, that ain't even scraping the surface. That's not even the tip of the iceberg. And that's the reason why you're not seeing me getting all jolly about this Marianne Williamson woman. Because what I'm looking at is, notice how the white media is not criticizing her for saying $100 billion.
Battery low.
They're concerned she slipped into the room so that she can set an artificial ceiling. That's what she's here for. She's here to set an artificial ceiling and say, well, the same way that 40 acres and a mule got kicked around, well, now we're saying $100 billion. Now let me tell you something, by the way, and I put this on my Twitter page, and you need to internalize this too. 40 acres and a mule, that's what you give to one man who you disadvantaged and took advantage of for his lifetime. If you got just one guy, you know, the old slave Cleopas, who you ripped him off his entire life, 40 acres and a mule is what you give to him. He's one person who you ripped off for one lifetime. What about if you ripped off Cleopas and his wife and his children and their parents and their parents' parents and their great-grandfathers and everybody else? What about that? 40 acres and a mule just for that? All these people who have gone their entire lives being raped, being beaten, brutalized.
Battery low.
And after all of that, you decided, well, you're going to take one of your descendants, give them 40 acres and a mule, and tell them to get the hell out of here. Nah, you ain't getting off that easy. And we're not letting you. 40 acres and a mule was a joke back then, and it's an insult today. We're owed a hell of a lot more than that. Don't you ever let the white media or any of their black bootlicks try to tell you 40 acres and a mule. I don't give a damn what that translates to in modern dollars. It still ain't enough. You ain't paying me just for what was done to me. You're going to pay for all of the centuries of accumulated wealth and the lost human dignity that has been stolen from our people. You can't put a price tag on that. That's the reason why you don't see the Jews stopping with their demands. You sit here and torture us. You sit here and murder and rape us, take everything from us, tell the entire world.
Battery low.
Right, you're going to be paying, and every year we're coming back and getting more. This is what they're doing. They're making sure not only are you not going to forget, this is a debt that will never be paid, because it was a crime that should never have happened. We have more justification and more right than the Jews ever did. So don't be sitting here letting them tell you that there's a ceiling on this thing. Ain't no limit. Ain't no freaking limit. Forget about scratch the surface. You haven't even taken a swing at the subject yet. You got a national economy that generates tens of trillions of dollars every single year. It's been generating trillions of dollars for decades and decades and decades now. So please tell me, what demand have you made upon white power that's even going to put a dent in that? Have you demanded anything that will even put a dent into the tens of trillions of dollars that they generate every year? Because reparations for people who built this country, and that's what we are. We must never let anyone forget that there would not be a United States of America, wouldn't have been 13 colonies. Hell, there wouldn't have been a North America without us. The Europeans tried to build on their own. We all know how Roanoke went. Didn't have a damn thing, so they had some Africans who actually knew nation building to do it for them. That's no coincidence. And I like the idea of using reparations to stick the sack of bad guys over the head with. You know why? Because reparations is a big ask. But it's also something that most of us can agree upon. Most of us, anyway. Reparations, it's something that makes people uncomfortable. It makes them unhappy. It's the kind of thing that, yeah, when black folks show up, this is going to be something that people are going to look at and go, damn, niggers, can you believe it? Yes, it's the kind of thing that conditions them to take us seriously. It's the kind of thing that lets them know we ain't no joke. It's an issue that focuses our collective will, and it makes these other groups very uncomfortable. So as a political wedge, as far as I'm concerned, it hits all the right notes. Stop being bashful about it. You make it clear, yes, reparations matter. Well, you know, that's pie in the sky, it's all this. Look, this is going to be an eternal struggle. I told you that what's going on here. This is going to be the black agenda. This is the issue, whether it's in elections, whether it's in business, whether it's in society. It's going to be tangible. That's going to be it. So if you're one of those black folks who has the attitude of, well, it can't be done, I don't want those people around me. I don't want the people who are constantly saying what cannot be done. Because if you went back just 12 years ago when we first started, the idea that black people were going to put white supremacy back into the national lexicon, they say, well, man, ain't nobody been saying white supremacy since the Black Panthers in the 70s, man. Well, we got it back into the national lexicon now, didn't we? And saying that black people are owed something from this country, that we're not going to be voting without tangibles. People were like, after Barack Obama, that ain't going to happen. Why? All the politicians are going to remind you about Barack Obama. I said, don't worry about that. We can hit the reset button, and we don't need Barack Obama for that. People thought it couldn't happen. It has. That's what Hillary Clinton learned. And that's what the Democrats learned in the 2018 midterms. And that's what Kamala Harris learned. And after Kamala got crushed, you had these black bootlicks on television and radio who realized that no, they don't speak for black people, and that a massive manifestation of black will, of the will of these sons and daughters of American slavery, had manifested itself and crushed a major party candidate. When that happened, that was a seismic event that occurred. And that's why all of a sudden you saw these black bootlicks on radio and television tripping over their shoelaces, trying to figure out how to say, what about the black agenda? Yeah, you see, we didn't need television to do that. We didn't need CNN to do that. We didn't need MSNBC to do that. Hell, a number of us here on YouTube, we got bigger audiences, a hell of a lot bigger audiences than CNN. Hell of a lot bigger audiences than these jokers that you see on MSNBC. So it's a matter of, we're not the ones trying to catch up with them, they're the ones trying to catch up with us. We haven't changed the message so that hopefully it will be more palatable to Joy Reid and her white producers and her white bosses at MSNBC. We didn't have to change what we said. They're having to change what they say. We're not changing the focus of our discussion. We have forced them to change the focus of theirs. And that's how you know who has the influence and who doesn't. That's how you know who's the dog and who's the tail being wagged. That's how you know we're establishing a new pecking order, one that puts us first. And we're not apologizing for that. We're not trying to figure out, can we reword it and put some sugar on it and water it down so it doesn't offend people? Oh, forget it. The new battle cry for black folks, as far as all of that, you're going to be losing white support. Well, y'all just going to have to hate us then. Well, what about the black-brown coalition? They just going to have to hate us then. Well, you're going to need some sort of partnership. You can't be out there by yourself. No, they just want to hate us then. Because what's going to happen is, once they realize we're not getting off of this, they have to come to terms with it. Once we have demonstrated that we have the ability to blow this thing up, that we have the ability to grind the gears of American elections to a halt, we have the ability to freeze the election landscape and do it in a way that makes it where an entire political party is irrelevant. Once they realize that, and they realize that this is the issue that did it to them, they're going to be so desperate to get things moving again, but we first have to show the persistence. We have to make it clear to them, this is not going away. And you're not going to get us off at this point. And you're not going to try to put together some coalition that doesn't include us. You can try it, it won't work. Reparations has caught white supremacy off guard, but as you see, they did have contingencies in place, and their plan is going to be to either derail the discussion through the use of phony black activists, or as a worst case scenario, if all else fails and they just can't get this issue to go away, and black folks prove that you're not going to get us off of it, what's going to happen is they're going to try to present some pathetic token, something or other, and then you'll have a lot of these black bootlicks saying, oh, reparations, and they'll even have the right wing out there saying, oh my God, it's reparations. The same right wing who said that welfare and food stamps are reparations. Just keep that in mind. For the right wing, everything is reparations. The sun rose this morning. See, that's reparations. So first order of business is that we alone are to dominate the discussion on reparations. We are to dominate it. What that means is ain't nobody else speaking on it except for us. Nobody else has legitimacy to speak on it except for us. And that if we are not the ones who get called in with all these white media outlets have to do if they actually were news and not whites, which is probably forgetting. Then it'd just be a matter of you bring on these voices you see on the internet, you know, the ones who are scaring the hell out of you, the ones who you've been demonizing and calling bots. You go ahead and bring them on, and you shut up and they do all the talking. That's a properly conducted discussion about reparations. The people who have been pushing this issue, the ones who've been championing it, they're the ones who speak and nobody else says a word. That's a properly conducted discussion. The one that brings in the tried and true black bootlicks for the white media, the usual suspects, these clowns who speak for no one but themselves, that's a fraud. And it's getting called out. And by the way, Bernie Sanders ain't the only one who's going to find himself getting embarrassed from time to time when some black person who's got their head on straight runs up on him with a camera. Before it's all over, these clowns, these talking mouthpieces, these empty talking heads that you see on white media, they need to go ahead. We need to have some Twitter videos and some Vines and some Instagram posts where you say, hey, man, I was able to catch up with Angela Reed at the airport. I was able to catch up with Roly Martin here. I was able to catch up with Jonathan Capehart or whoever the other black clowns are who the white media has on their air, just spewing hot air. Just to make sure that you understand that any of these people who have been calling themselves trying to spread anti-black propaganda under the guise of liberal commentary, make sure that they understand the exact same way that people like Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders are being made to answer for the crap that they say. Guess what? You're going to be asked the exact same question. You don't get to sit there, throw a rock, and hide your hands. Those days are over. That's why you don't see us sitting here complaining about, well, if only we could get some time on one of those white TV station sound stages. We point out the hypocrisy of what they're doing. We point out the fraud of what they're doing. We point out the lie of what they're doing. But you don't see us getting a heartburn about it because at the end of the day, this reinforces the fakery of who and what they are. Besides, what they would think is, I'd be kind of worried if they started trying to find a way to coax some of us to come on their air, because it would simply be a way of them trying to last-ditch, Hail Mary, give themselves some legitimacy. They'd be trying to say, see, we talked to these guys, so see, we're legitimate. I would be concerned that we would be incidentally lending them some legitimacy. So any sort of interaction with the white media would have to be done very, very carefully. The first thing we got to establish is that the whole talk about reparations is only for those of us who came out of American slavery, and it is a conversation that is only legitimate when it is dominated by us. It is not going to be something where you get some white person, no matter how well-meaning they may claim to be, who is going to tell you about it. We don't need some white person to tell us about it. We don't need some white person to tell people about it. We are perfectly capable of doing it ourselves. If these white reporters were the ones who brought the issue up, or if they understood it, then they wouldn't have been calling their pants down either. We don't need some good white liberal to call themselves, bring it to people's attention. What they need to do is simply copy and paste what we're telling folks. Better yet, here's the press release, here's the column, reprint it word for word, letter for letter. That's all you got to do. We're not going to be doing that. because this is a racial policy that's being promoted, and it's important that the propaganda all go one way. So we're in for a hell of a fight, but this is how we're going to prove to everyone that we are serious about it. Reparations are determined by the aggrieved party. This is the reason why we're not going to let any political whores like Bernie Sanders or Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren come to us and tell us what they can't or can't do. Nobody's going to be telling us, oh, that price tag you guys gave us, that's a little bit too big. Forget that. When Germany lost the First World War, they owed France reparations. France didn't let Germany have even one word of say over what paid how much of reparations that Germany owed. They were dictating the terms, and that was that. The Germans were having orders barked out. You started this war, and here's the bill. And that's how it went. Well, that's how this is going to go. And the white media is not going to bestow the legitimacy for determining reparations onto the heads of the people who've been fighting it all this time. They ain't gonna work. These Democrats and their white media cronies are going to get called out. Because white supremacy believes in controlling both sides of the conversation. Controlled opposition is a crucial component of mass social control, and as reparations refuses to go away as an issue, as we refuse to pipe down, we're not going to be distracted, and you're not going to be ready to see them try something. We know that the enforcement arm and the propaganda arm and the administrative arm of white supremacy work hand in hand. They're all part of the same white supremacist apparatus. Don't be surprised if the white media decides that all of a sudden there's going to be a sudden rash of black killings at the hands of the police all of a sudden. Or there's going to be some act of ghastly violence against black people. And what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, you see, it was all because of Donald Trump. And see, Donald Trump's got to go. And they don't care about that. What they care about is we got to get black folks to get off this reparations thing. Stop threatening white supremacy's power. So we're going to try to figure out if a heap of dead black bodies is going to dissuade you. Is that going to distract you? Get ready for it. I want you to expect this stuff. We're putting white supremacists' backs to the wall. You think that right now you ain't got some Democrats who are wondering how the hell if they can get us off this issue? Hey, last time black folks were this energized about Black Lives Matter thing, George Soros ain't had penny one to put into this. And he wouldn't be allowed to be part of this discussion, so that ain't gonna fly. And they know that's the look, a bunch of dead black bodies, that would certainly get them to be looking in another direction. And it's not as if they're the only ones who have thought this. You have that clown, Mark Levin. He's like this right-wing blowhard that you see on Fox News every once in a while. Before the 2008 election, he was sitting there saying that, I shouldn't say before, after the 2008 election, he actually had the nerve to say that if America had suffered another terrorist attack, Barack Obama would not have become president. He actually said that if America had suffered another 9/11 terrorist attack, Barack Obama wouldn't have become president. So you had Republicans praying for Americans to die by the thousands, just so that they could get their way politically. Mark Levin would prefer to see the Americans dead than for him not to get his way on election day. Well, do you think that Mark Levin's the only one who thinks that way? Don't you know there's a number of these good white liberals who, as far as they're concerned, why, if you had the Mother Emanuel Church massacre take place just before Election Day 2016, Donald Trump would be president. Black folks would have been galvanized. Donald Trump would never have been president. There are white liberals who are just like Mark Levin. They all are cut from the same cloth of white power by all means. They're willing to pay any price, but usually in someone else's blood, preferably ours. So yeah, there's a number of white liberals who, as far as they're concerned, only a number of black people got killed. Hopefully black folks would get on some, police need to be reined in stuff, or they would get on some legislature needs to write some laws stuff. And while these things are necessary and they are required, the problem happens to be at the end of the day, your ballot is worthless and useless without power behind it. As I said in my video about the media and 2020 Democrats are trying to redefine reparations, the reason that your ballot has no power is because you have no power. That's the reason why. Don't you think it's time for that to change? So expect the white media to be dragging out some phony baloney black empowerment wannabes, some sort of manufactured black empowerment types to be trying to mislead us. Or at the very least, they're going to be trying to set up a controlled dialogue where it's going to be just a script. Oh, we got what we have over here is Quantavious Carol Sanders. And wait a minute here, is this a man or a woman? We're not sure. I'm all about LGBT, and I'm also all about the environment and feminism, death to the patriarchy, and toxic masculinity. Well, actually, it sounds like Terry Crews now, don't it? So expect to see Terry Crews get brought out on CNN and saying this reparations thing is just a bunch of divisive black whatever, and I've never had a problem with white people, especially the ones who grab my junk, and expect for him to be out there doing that crap, or somebody like him. Or they're going to be trying to use our talking points, drag us off point, or better yet, all of the above. Expect to see white supremacy, because what they've been doing the last week or so, last week and a half to 2 weeks, it's just been a full court press across the board. Everything and anything. That's what white supremacy does. They're hitting you with a full-scale barrage. It's going to be everything that they've got being targeted at you all at once. You're going to have Mark Morial talking stupid. You're going to have Simone Sanders talking stupid. You're going to have Roly Poly talking stupid. You're going to have Michael Eric Dumbass talking stupid. You're going to have all the breakfast schluck talking stupid. Angela Rye talking stupid. All of these clowns talking stupid. That's the entire point. The entire point is kitchen sink. Throw everything at them. Everything at all. And not only are they going to keep up the steady drumbeat of their paid black bootlicks spreading their lies, they're also going to be forwarding whatever black massacre or whatever killings of black people that they can use as a distraction. Preferably the more dead black people, the better. They're going to be also having some good white liberals saying, you know what, reparations are an idea whose time has come, but it's too difficult right now, you see, too difficult. That'll be Bernie Bigot Sanders. And then what you're going to have is you're going to have one or two of these guys say, well, you know, we can do reparations, but it's got to be reparations for all, you see. Hey, we're talking about Medicare for all, and how come we have Medicare only for a few? It's going to be for everybody. So Medicare for all and reparations for all. Expect all of it. Expect them to just be coming at us with a nonstop barrage of attempts to distract us, glittering objects that they can put in front of us and say, hey, look at this latest police killing. You care about that more than reparations. This dead black person over here, that's far more important than reparations, isn't it? Expect it. Okay? Expect it. We've already seen a forerunner to this already. Roly pulled a test run on his little show, that little side show of his. He did that with somebody who was trying to use some of Tariq Nasheed's language. Some guy who's sitting here, I guess perhaps he thought that he was taking digs at Tariq or something. Maybe that's what he thought that he was doing. But all that he was really doing was putting on display that this is what he's been reduced to. And this is why they had to put Malcolm Nance out there. The white media will get on code in a big way. Mass media coordination is how the white media shapes the public mind. If the white media declares a particular viewpoint to be outside the bounds of respectable discourse, then it automatically is, because they said so. This is how they condition the public to go along with the unreasonable and the absurd. Because anybody who doesn't agree, well, you're fringe. And as we've seen with government agent Malcolm Nance, fringe isn't based on how many people believe in a particular thing. Fringe means anything that doesn't serve the interests of established power. That's what it means. So for those who are uncomfortable with this type of discourse that has now come back to the surface, well, I guess you're just going to have to hate us then. Political selfishness. For those of us who are the survivors of American slavery, that's the order of the day. That's the order of the day. We understand that white supremacy is not scared of having a discussion about reparations, so long as it never goes beyond the discussion and so long as they control the discussion and the outcome of it. We understand that. You know what? Those of us, though, who came out of slavery, we better have an or else ready, okay? We better have some sort of or else ready, because no discussion about power between two opposing groups is possible unless at least one of them has a definite or else on tap. We know white power has an or else. They've been using it against us for 500 years. We need to have an or else of our own. I know that may seem like putting the cart before the horse, but as Dr. John Henry Clark said, you cannot expect to sit down at the table of power unless there's some power that sent you there. At this stage, we don't need 100% economics power. To be hyper-organized, that can cover a multitude of shortcomings. We won't win this war without having an economy, but in the early days, a few pennies, that can do a lot for us. But we got to be serious about what the world it is that we expect to have done. We got to be serious about the outcome of this entire discussion and that this is going to be the new normal. So all the people who ain't built for this, who are trying to figure out ways to weasel out of the discussion, and you're kind of getting bored about it because it's exciting if the white media talks about it, but other than that, if the white media is not validating the importance of it, well, you kind of find your attention wandering off somewhere. Well, that's good. Go ahead and wander off, because we need you to get lost. This is not for you. This is why promoting ourselves on the basis of being ex-slaves is so important, because it teaches everyone to rethink all of their old assumptions about us. Assumptions that were given to them by the white powers that be. White power gave these other groups a comforting narrative about us. A total lie, but still a comforting lie, because it was one that helped to justify the racialist pecking order the white supremacy put in place and the hyper-violent coercion and corruption that it uses to keep the order in place. No progress has been made because progress is the very thing that white supremacy was set up to prevent. Black people aren't happy with the status quo and never have been. So this whole lie, just the biggest lie of the last 150 years, that, well, we're all better off than we were, fill in the blank. We're all better off in the 1980s. Well, we're better off than we were in the 60s. In the 1960s, well, we're better off than we were in the 30s and 40s. The 1930s and 40s, well, we're better off than we were back in the 19-teens when they were burning down the Black Wall Streets. And back in the 19-teens, we're better off than we were in the 1880s. That's when they put Jim Crow in the books. And in the 1880s, we're better off than we were in the 1860s. That's when slavery was still going on. You see how the game goes. We're always better off than we were a little bit before. When the truth of the matter is, ain't a damn thing changed. Dr. King was murdered. Malcolm, Medgar, the state-sponsored terrorism against the Black Panthers and MOVE. We get reminded every 10 years or so when the racial unrest comes rushing back to the surface because of some incident or a series of incidents in the case of the police murdering black people. It makes it clear where the subject has to be discussed. The national lie of we're all just one big, happy, dysfunctional family. To hell with that. The white media brings out the old playbook, and we got to talk about it. Well, this time things are different. We're taking control of the narrative. Not only are we not letting the white media dictate to us what to think or to say about the issues, nobody's going to make us embarrassed to say it. Notice how all it took is for us to assert ourselves, and now we got them saying it. You don't see anyone saying, this is simply reparation. Oh, this is ridiculous. Instead, they're saying, well, you know what? We can do that as long as it's for everyone. Now, that's going to be the big hurdle to get over. Make sure they understand. You're going to start saying black again. And it ain't going to be black and everyone else. It's just going to be black full stop. They understand what it is that we're trying to do. See, you may be desensitized to when someone's trying to find a way to break your particular will on an issue. If they're trying to break through your resistance, you may be ill-suited to understand when that's happening, but white supremacy understands exactly when someone's trying to do that. Now, can we break them to our will? Of course we can. But it ain't going to happen without us being persistent. We got to make sure this gets put on them daily. This has to be a steady, daily drumbeat. Well, I don't like it. Well,
Fuck what you like.
give a damn what you don't like.
Well, you know, it's getting used to paying people for stuff that happened hundreds of years ago.
Well, then, if we make you do it enough times, you'll get used to it. I was the one who pointed out to you that power is used as a shield long before it's used as a sword. Right now, we're still in defense mode. We haven't gone on the offensive. All we're doing is protecting ourselves from another Barack Obama-style political fraud. That's what the crushing of Kamala Harris was about. That was a defensive move, not offensive. We haven't even gone on offense yet. That's so far on the horizon, we ain't even been there yet. Right now, we're simply showing that we can put up a substantive defense. The white media tries to launch a racist offensive against us, a propaganda offensive, dragging out all their black bootlicks, and what we've done is we've resisted that. We're showing that we can put forward a substantive defense. But they understand that at some point, those of us who came out of American slavery, at some point, we gotta go on offensive. They know that that's coming. They understand that that's coming. This is their effort to head it off now. And what we're going to prove to them is they were wrong. They were wrong for what they did to us. They were wrong to think that they could get away with it. And they're also wrong with the idea that we were not going to say or do anything about it. We're hitting the reset button. We're getting politically selfish. And this war against reparations and the unsettling of white supremacy that this war represents, that's not going away. They're wrong about the outcome of that too. We're in this for the long haul. We're not in this for a media cycle. We're not in this for an electoral cycle. This is the new normal. And there's nothing that they are going to be allowed to say about that.